potentially dive coming out of the corners, knowing that you'll fall back behind by the next corner, but as the finish line's right ahead of you, it could be a last gasp grab of a place. So some very exciting potential end of race shenanigans going on here, and I'm looking forward to seeing if anyone chooses to dive. But I can't hide the fact I'm a little disappointed. I wanted to see one of these cars unlap themselves and absolutely blitz round here significantly faster because they've had a pit stop. It doesn't look like we've got that variation that we thought maybe would happen.
Yeah, well, let's not worry about that variation right now, because IFL Dano is catching up to these two because they're dealing with this traffic very poorly indeed. And it's not their fault either. Look at IFL Dano. Here he is. He is coming through nicely here as well, and he's just not getting as caught up. He's in behind the number 9 car there, trying to figure out who that is. Again, it is a back marker for sure. But IFL Dano really is dealing with the traffic a lot better than the 2 cars in front. And we've actually seen the 2 cars in front here have contact a few times as well. So if he can just negotiate this as cleanly as possible, he may be able to just claw onto the back of them once again. And the potential is there. He's only, well, he's 3 seconds behind, so actually he's now starting to suffer from it. But the worst thing about this situation is if any of these drivers have come into the pits and they're a few laps down because of damage, they will have fresh rubber on. So as much as they are the slower car, they could actually be faster around the circuit at this stage of the race because of the tyre wear. So it just becomes a little bit more difficult. So with only 19 laps to go, this still is on for IFL Dano. He's just got to keep himself going. But what a story this is. He's got the most points out of everybody, been here every single month so far in the finals. And it looks like he's going to fall short by 1 position once again.
Well, the good news is if he does do exactly that, then while the 3 cars ahead of him, of course, will be occupying those podium places in the automatic semi-final invites, there's literally no one else who can improve on his points tally. He will have the maximum number of points out of everybody who could possibly qualify on there. So frustrating, yes, but it's almost 1 foot in the door of the semi-finals, just maintaining where he is now.
Yeah, but psychologically, if you've never got into the top 3, what does that do for you? You know, you get to the semi-finals, and yeah, it's great that you've been super consistent, but every single month there's been 3 drivers faster than you, at least, you know? So it's got to play on your mind here. So, I think he's going to be in the semi-finals, right? Regardless of what happens, finishing P4 today is pretty much going to guarantee his semi-finals. Well, it is going to guarantee his semi-final spot. Let's make no bones about it. No one is going to catch him in the points. But he comes back next month for sure. 100% has to come back next month because he has to try and get into that top 3 just for his own psychological gain, right?
Sure, yeah, completely. I think if you're able to be that consistent and you finished on the podium, that's almost like the perfect tick box of everything. Big contact there. I think that was IFL Dano on the number 36 car. It looks like.
Yeah, they dropped down. They dropped down onto him. He's the fastest.
Contact from the leader as well in your picture-in-picture. My God, everything's happening at once.
Oh, Teemu Toika's had some contact here. It'd be interesting to see if he's lost time, though. The number 12, again, he's taking the midline right now.
He was able to continue. He made contact with another purple car. Unfortunately, whoever he made contact with looked to bear the brunt of it and saved Teemu from going into the wall. So I think he lost some time there, but probably not too much.
No, right now it's just showing lap times here. Unfortunately, we would like to see the interval just to see if he lost any time. He smokes being kicked up there from the incident on circuit. That'll stay there for a couple of laps for sure. IFL Dano right now is just hoping that a back marker really does swipe in and potentially get involved with the battle for P2 and P3 to maybe just guarantee himself a month off effectively. Like, there's only so much grinding you can do before your brain needs to explode. Teemu Toika, wow, 6.8 seconds now. The advantage here, and Gregor's Radecki and Lemonek, they are both just, well, I say, don't fight, guys. You've got no need to fight, but yeah, you can't turn a race driver off, unfortunately. Lemonek's going to go up the inside once again, but the high side is going to be quicker on the exit. So again, it's quicker to go deep on the entry, and you can see they almost go side by side, but it's always going to be faster on the high side, especially with the tyre wear being as it is. These drivers will be on the cars will be screaming right now. Be surprised we're not seeing sparks from the rims of the car. And while this is the last thing you want, is if you comfortably in a P2 and P3, you're comfortably making it to the finals, and then you've got a wall of 4 cars with 8 laps to go. This is exactly not what you want to see here. It's too wide there between 8 and the number 93. Remember, the number 5 car is Radecki, Gregor's Radecki. He is currently, sorry, number 5? Is it number 5? Yeah, sorry, number 5. I was looking at the position there. It's number 2. Of course, he is in position 2. But yeah, the last thing you want right now is contact that's not your fault. There's the number 9 car there. That's not Chase Elliott. That is indeed Trying to figure out who the number 9 car is. It must be actually in the top 15. They removed themselves out of the way nicely here, but as it stands then, they're getting through this group of 4 cars very, very nicely indeed. Nothing to write home about. IFL Dano's hoping that there's, you know, the scene from Endgame about to happen for him. But ultimately, it looks pretty good here, although these two are battling very, very hard indeed. And now Lemonette goes side by side here with Radecki. Lemonette, though, the clever driver, is definitely not going to decide to make any potential moves. Nearly a chop down there on number 5. He backs out there. Yeah, so Gregor's Radecki, he was backing out of that situation. He figured he was going to get chopped out big time there. As Lemonette gets very close, trying to maybe find an opportunity for an overtake. Oh, dangerous to do so. There's a couple of cars off the circuit as well. Wow. But again, it just becomes out of your hands. It is out of your hands at this stage of the race. We've only got a couple of laps to go. And are they going to negotiate the traffic here, sufficiently enough to get through the second and third? Or is there going to be a bolt out of the blue that's going to take them out?
Final couple of laps here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. Lap 68 out of 70, just seconds. But how long and agonizing those seconds must be. Tires screaming on all of these cars as second and third continues to be a bit of a tussle. But if you maintain the high line for the entire time and your tires aren't screaming half as much, and you don't have to worry about the tire we're ruining the end of your race, the back markers, though, might be able to. Yeah,
Radecki there gets overtaken by Lemonette. Luckily, P3 is still a qualifying spot there. He just got boxed in by a back marker. And we're on the final lap of the race, though. Teemu Toika, it did look like, it did look like he might have gone out a little bit too hard, a little bit too early. But ultimately, he is golden here, so he is going to pick up the checkered flag. Then it's all about these two here. Right now, then, it's Lemonette, who's already qualified from the open wheel section of the G Challenge. And it looks like he's also going to qualify now. The first time I've asked him in the stock car challenge as well. So well done there. Gregor's Radecki is going to pick up third, and it's heartbreak again for IFL Dano. He's going to finish in 4th position, just outside that top 3. Are we going to see him hit that podium during the G Challenge? Not sure we are. Hopefully he proves me wrong, but it is all about Teemu Toika. He qualified for this whole event as the fastest driver. In qualifying itself, he was the fastest driver, and in the race, he was absolutely untouchable. They say that, if you want to win, hire a Finn, hire Teemu Toika.
Absolutely imperious drive, and I think we can say that with no exaggeration.
Again, this is not me bigging myself up or anything, but I qualified a few months ago, or I tried to qualify, and did a few laps. I did simulations of what it would be like on 20 laps. I did simulations of 3 laps. I did simulations of 5 laps. Some of those simulations weren't my choice of doing 3 laps, but here we are. And it's very, very difficult. The tires drop off so considerably, it becomes a completely different race from start to finish. So the front drivers have done the hard work right now. And, Andreas Jenkel and Zuber, they just got to stay behind now. Just stay behind. Don't try and put any pressure on yourself here. Again, third is exactly the same as first, really, in this format. Top 3 will go through. You just do not want to be giving a carrot to someone like Robin Osland. We know he's fast. He's qualified to get to this point. He's actually the 8th fastest qualifier. He's comfortably running in the 30s himself. But you just do not want to be giving someone like that a carrot for 4 laps, because they will reach another gear. Sometimes it's psychologically in sim racing and motorsport on its own, and actually any form of sport, any form of whatever you want to do in terms of hobbies, if you've got something to chase, if you've got an achievement to chase, it makes you perform better, not only physically, but mentally as well. So, yeah, he's going to be making better decisions. He's going to be more focused because there's something to genuinely chase.
That's exactly how I feel down in curling club, Luke. Really important psychologically to sort of get that kind of edge.
But, I never thought I'd hear you say that, but I always had an inkling that you did attend either bowls or curling club, and now it's been confirmed, so good to hear.
Exactly. Well, I'm old, man. What can I say? But it's a lovely pastime. Gap between Peter Zuber and Robin Osland not really closing at the moment. I would say the front 3 are relatively comfortable at this stage, especially in light of Peter Zuber setting the fastest lap of the race earlier on. Just wanted to make sure he closed the gap without necessarily pushing. And as a result, things are looking relatively chilled out. Making his way into the 129s, though, is Carlos Fenolosa, definitely wanting to try and break the slipstream of Henkel before the end of the race if he can. And it doesn't look like he's on the ragged edge either. He feels like he's driving comfortably within himself. And if he's got another couple of tenths in the bank and wants to show us, needs to be a little bit careful with the airtime there. But to be fair, he's driving that thing mighty fast right now.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see whether he's actually out of the slipstream range here. So let's watch them as they come across the line, see if that gap does indeed close up down towards turn number 1. But I think Carlos has just decided here, right, what have I got? You know, what can I gain in terms of an advantage psychologically on the rest of these drivers moving forward in this competition? He knows that people who've already qualified are going to be watching, like, for sure. They want to know exactly who they're going to be racing against moving forward in this championship, right? But also the 2 drivers directly behind him. If he can manage to pull out a gap, it's a very difficult car to pull a gap on anybody because of the slipstream being such a huge factor. And he hasn't managed to do it, by the way. They are still keeping tabs with him. If he can then break the slipstream, it's just like a 1-0. There you go, got you. Next time out, guys, you know that I'm capable of doing that. It's again, it's probably the hardest challenge. Is making obviously winning races is the biggest challenge, but you know, breaking toe of drivers of a similar ability as you, being at the top level, yeah, it's a challenge in itself here. As we are looking here at Julien Blanchard in behind Adam Illman. So Illman, good to see that Illman is still in the race here near the end. And again, he just keeps chipping away. We've got 2 ways of qualifying in terms of the broadcast each month. Of course, we've got wildcards as well. But we have top 3 from every single race qualify for our semi-finals, plus a certain amount of drivers in terms of how many points they've earned or accrued across the whole championship. So if they never actually reach the top 3, if you signed up every single month and you've raced in the final, ultimately you're going to be gaining points each and every time. And Adam Illman showing that maybe not quite top 3 pace, but you know, if he's again like poker, chip in a chair, you can get yourself there. You can get yourself into semi-finals, and we've seen that with some of the big dogs over the last 4 months, anything can happen in these races. And as we move towards the semi-finals, John, it's going to be even closer in terms of pace and drivers, which means the potential for incidents becomes even bigger.
Speaking of potential for incidents, there has been a very minor one here as Peter Zuber overtakes Andreas Henkel. No change to the overall top 3, of course. I suspect that was a minor mistake that Peter Zuber capitalized on. We know that he was setting fastest laps earlier on in the race, but Henkel is there or thereabouts as well, 1:30.0 with his fastest lap. He's going to be a little bit annoyed, but ultimately, end of the day, if they finish in the positions they do now, they haven't actually lost anything. It's just a little bit of a wake-up call to say, hey, guess what? Just make sure you're looking after the car. Make sure you understand that if the tires go off, you're not caught out. And they should still be able to finish in this order, barring some sort of catastrophe.
Yeah, it's about not getting greedy now. Like, the P1's gone, but don't be greedy. Like, if you make a mistake, but you're still in a qualifying position, again, it's such a unique format. You know, normally races, P1, P2, P3 are different. You get a podium, but the trophies are different. The points in the championship are different. But ultimately, with this championship, they are worth the same at this stage. Anyway, so take your medicine. I've made a mistake. Get out of your head and move on. Like, oh, P3, good enough. But don't try and get greedy now. Don't try and think, I deserve P2. I've already earned P2. You haven't. You're in P3. You've got to take it on the chin sometimes and just move on. And I think Henkel's doing that right now. So, yeah, I think they're going to be quite good. But, yeah, the last thing, again, we wouldn't mind seeing it, John, but the last thing him as a driver would like, or Zuber, is for them to start battling side by side and just give Austin an opportunity to pick up a free.
Yeah, that would be absolutely disastrous. Fenelon there also might have had a minor mistake because he was up to 1.8 seconds ahead at one point. I thought he was continuing to pull a really nice gap even bigger, and it's actually now just dropped back down to just over a second. Assuming there are no major mistakes on the last lap, that should be comfortable for him to take the victory here, but you never ever count yourself a race winner until you actually cross the checkered flag. So Fenelon still has half a lap to go, but right now he's sitting comfortable.
Yeah, he's done a really, really good job here. I think he's also achieved the little goal of breaking that slipstream. Now he's kind of just let off the gas ever so slightly here, pardon the pun. Yeah, he's completed a lot of objectives today. He was the quickest qualifier getting into the event, very similarly to what we saw with the stock car race. He was the quickest in qualifying as well, and he's gone out there and put the number 1 on the car and got the number 1 spot. So fair play to him as he comes through that final chicane once again. He's got into the heads of the other drivers. He's broken that slipstream as well, which is going to be pretty frightening to some drivers who've already qualified, but ultimately he has got the job done. Carlos Fenelon is going to win here then in our open wheel monthly final number 4 here at the Nürburgring. Congratulations to him. Zuber and Henkel are going to finish in 2nd and 3rd, and It looked like they might get involved with each other, but they didn't. And that means they've got safe passage here. And again, we're seeing more donuts, John. This is great to see. People have not celebrated well in this competition so far. It's actually been embarrassing, if I'm going to be completely honest. But finally, we're seeing donuts.
They've upped their game. I think they've been watching the previous monthly broadcast and they're going, we could do better than this.
But now you're really starting to see who exactly is going to be there, what sort of final we're going to have. And right now, every single semi-final is going to be absolutely incredible. And that's not even the final. So, like, yeah, moving forward, we are in for an amazing show of racing skills.
We spent the last couple of months putting together the corners and the edges of the jigsaw, slowly starting to fill that in. We are now starting to see the picture of exactly what that's going to look like. On board again with Victor Nicolai. Very important battle this, and the closest one on track right now. If people are wondering, why are you going back to that? Because this is quite important going into the final 5 minutes of this race. As you can see, a 59 flat, so Nicolai is rapid, but needs to find a way around McDade. If he wants to prove to us he can go even faster than that. He started in 8th, so he's already made up a couple of places. There's not a huge amount of pressure on him to overtake on the grounds that it's not going to get him into an automatic qualifying position. But psychologically, against an excellent driver like Chris McDade, yeah, he still wants to do it.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. You're talking about this puzzle that we're putting together. Like, I reckon it's going to take about 8 months from start to finish in this competition. Considering it says 3+ years on the box, that is pretty impressive stuff that we've managed to do it in that time. Nicolai still looking to get up towards that top 5, though. He's got to get past McDade, and McDade is proven to be a very tough obstacle, a very tough cookie to crack.
Oh, and that's a bit of an off there for Romagnoli. It looks like the car behind him going through Spoon isn't going to quite get the run off. I think he did that going into the corner, which meant that he didn't lose too much speed on the exit. It will have affected him, but not quite to the point where he's able to give that place up to the car behind. He started 10th, so he's actually still made up a position on this in this race. He's very, very keen at the moment, looking up the exhaust pipe of Kaupinen to see if he can find a way around there, but maybe just overcooking it a little bit.
Yeah, again, it's a very tough series to make overtakes on, because we've seen historically EMEA as a region is probably the strongest, but historically it's the sports car. We've always had sports car, whether when we use Project Cars 2 or whether we've used ACC, we've always had a sports car series, and that always brings the best of the best. And it's one thing being very fast around a lap time, but then try and make an overtake on someone who maybe is 100th of a second slower than you around one particular lap. Like, you need to have, in these cars, you need to really be about 0.8 of a second, maybe even a second faster over a quarter of a lap, which makes it very, very difficult. And they're just not, the slipstream isn't really huge within this game either as well. There's not a lot of aero on these cars these days as well. So it makes it, you know, the hole that's being punched in the air from the car in front is a little bit smaller. So it just becomes very, very difficult. So really, you've got to do what Osterman's done, qualify at the front end, drive out in the front, and not look back, really. With Pawlowski now 5 seconds behind, Tariq Adam half a second still behind Pawlowski.
Tariq Adam has actually kept pace with Pawlowski impressively there. He's round about half a second behind, still looking for an opportunity to pounce. Obviously, being in a top 3 position, that's not strictly necessary, but I think he has the pace. If those positions were reversed, I could see Tariq Adam pulling out a little bit of a gap there. But step 1 to doing that, as you say, is getting past. And yes, he's faster. He's not 0.8 faster.
Yeah, the South Africans are really coming into sim racing in their droves at the moment. You know, we're seeing, you know, I would say in the top 100 drivers on ACC, I would say at least 10 would be South Africans at this stage. And we're seeing success in the real world of motorsport. We're seeing Kelvin van der Linde in DTM. We're seeing David Perel reach his dream by going to racing Le Mans in his Ferrari. And we're seeing drivers like Jordan Pepper making it to some of the biggest races around America. Like, these drivers are, you know, showing that it is possible from, you know, South Africa to do something, and it's kind of resonating within sim racing as well. So it's fantastic to see that this region has been given the attention that it deserves and given the opportunity. And we're going to have a few of them. You know, we've got Jordan Sherritt as well, who absolutely dominated last time out as well from Brands Hatch. So yeah, there's going to be a few there in the finals. And that is what the Logitech McLaren G Challenge is all about. And there's still a chance for you guys to sign up. So make sure that you do indeed go to logitechgchallenge.com. Go get signed up. Doesn't matter whether you feel like you're quick enough or not. Maybe you've only ever raced against AI. You could legitimately be the fastest driver in the world and you wouldn't even know it. You've got nothing to lose. It's free. So you've got 1 more month to qualify, to get onto live television or live streams, whatever you want to call it. get yourself involved. You've got absolutely nothing to lose. And maybe you come 30th out of 30. Maybe you just about qualify and get on the broadcast. That's your first step. Then there's next year.
Yep.
It's always about progression. And if you're not doing it, you're not getting any better, are you? You know,
Well,
if you're not entering these competitions, you're just watching, you're never progressing.
you have to be in it to win it, as they say, and that does not apply more anywhere than at the Logitech McLaren G Challenge. Literally anyone can race. That's basically the tagline, right? Absolutely important that you give it a go and just put yourself out there. There is still another month for you to give one of our 3 featured tracks a go in month number 5. So just because you're watching now and you're going, well, it's the end of month race, I've already missed the boat. No, you haven't. There's another month of competition immediately after this. LogitechGChallenge.com is where to go. Now, a minute left to go, and we can see Osterman going round, I think that was 130R, is it? For the final time, and he's slowly making his way to the end of the lap.
Osterman then, who came into this as your 3rd fastest qualifier with a 58.854. And well, he has done a sensational job of qualifying on pole here for the Logitech McLaren G Challenge. Monthly vinyl number 4 here for the Sports Car Challenge. And he's going to take that checkered flag and safe passage through to the semi-finals later on in the year. Well, it looks like we have got ourselves a new 3 drivers moving through to the next phase, spearheaded by Osterman. It's going to be Pavlovsky then, who finishes in 2nd position. Of course, a 2-time world champion already within Project Cars 2. And then Tariq Adam, one of the Saffers, is in P3. So another South African making it to our semi-finals. Apostle McDade and Nikolai, unfortunately, not going to be quite getting into that top 3. But ultimately, they're scoring big points moving forward. 15 drivers are going to qualify for our semi-finals via that method as well. So, yeah, crazy.
Well, congratulations to Jakob Osterman, who takes home the victory here in the sports car race on Suzuka Night. An absolutely delightful drive from him, managing to get pole position and converting that into a gap, although it wasn't all smooth sailing for him. At the start of the race, he was helped a little bit by some chaos behind. Fortunately, though, immediately after that, he then went, no, hang on a second, it's not just about what goes on elsewhere. I can put the hammer down as well. And he started slowly gapping everyone else. It was a delightful performance from him. Cannot fault it.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, just... We've seen that 3 races in a row now, haven't we? Just seen the winner of each race has just been absolutely dominant, and that's kind of been rare. We've normally had a battle for the front 2 or front 3, like it's been normally 4 or 5 cars actually battling, and they then sort of split into their 2 separate groups, but we haven't really seen dominance like we've seen today. And yeah, that's kind of the story of the day. All 3 races have been dominated by 1 driver.
And at the end of the day, when you get a clean start like that, because it's not just about qualifying, right? You need to make sure that you start in such a way that people don't get the jump on you. You can out-qualify everybody else by 7 or 8 tenths of a second, but if off the start line there's an issue or you mistime something and you get swamped, it doesn't matter how fast you are. You're going to spend so much time just recouping from that.
Yeah, I think we might have called the race win a lap early there. Jacob Osterman has just crossed the line. Luckily, there's no change of position there, but I could have sworn I saw the checkered flag being waved.
Oh, I swear I did as well, to be fair.
Yeah, so that is, that's, I don't know what's happened there, but luckily nothing changed. Jacob Osterman is still your race victor. Pavlovsky and Tariq Adam then are your front 3. But yeah,
プロフェッショナルドリフトドライバーの田口和也です。ドリフトって非日常的な車の動きをしているので、見ているお客様を楽しませられるっていうのがドリフトの魅力だと思っています。決して安全ではない、一歩間違えばクラッシュになってしまうっていう危険と隣り合わせの興奮っていうのが非常に自分自身で運転している中では魅力でありますね。 僕のレースの会場だと普段は一般道として使われている普通の道でレースをすることがあるんですけど、物理的にそういったところでは練習をすることができないんです。なので僕は事前にシミュレーターでトレーニングしてます。いかに自分が掴んでいるステアリング、そしてペダル、さらにはシフトが今車がどのような動きをしているかをどのくらい伝えてくれるかっていうのが非常に重要なんですけど、 G923 はステアリングを通して車の動きのフィードバックをリアルに伝えてくれるのでトレーニングに重宝しています。ドリフトのスタートは日本の方が先で、アメリカは後からドリフトがスタートしたんですけど、今となってはもう完全にアメリカではプロフェッショナルのモータースポーツになっていて、ドライバーだけではなくてチーム、監督、メカニック、そしてオーディエンス、お客さんも全てがみんなプロなんですよね。日本人としてアメリカのドリフトシーンで活躍することによって母国日本のドリフトモータースポーツカテゴリーももっともっと盛り上がってメジャーになっていってくれればいいなというふうに思ってます。G923 は僕にとっては欠かせない存在ですね。
Talk.
Am I allowed in here? Normally I'm behind the wheel. The beauty of esports is that anyone can experience the adrenaline of Formula One for themselves. Just grab a gaming setup, put it onto drive, and let the data guide and help. Hi, I'm Lando Norris, and you're about to experience the art of data.
I think the biggest advantage of the G923 for me is just how realistic it is. The feedback that you get as soon as you plug it in, it was pure enjoyment as soon as I started driving. This is kind of the closest I can get to accessing that adrenaline and emotion of being on a gravel rally stage in Finland and flying over those crests. For me, it's about getting as real as I can to the environment that I race in, and obviously the wheel is the best instrument for that.
If you seek greatness, let nothing stand between you and the win. Zero distraction. Zero doubt. Zero opposition.
Welcome back to the Logitech McLaren G Challenge Round 4 race weekend. We've just finished watching the EMEA region complete their races. We're now going to be heading over to APAC to see how they do this weekend. My name is John Sargent. Joining me as always is Luke Crane. Luke, we had some entertaining EMEA races earlier. Even though we had lights to flag victories in each one, they were quite action-packed. Now we move over to APAC. At this point, I'm not sure what to expect.
Yeah, neither am I really. I was quite shocked that we did have so many dominant winners at all 3 races, in fact, earlier on today. But I think the big positive we could take from that is it was 3 names that we kind of hadn't seen before, and they've kind of really announced themselves to add to the massive plethora of talent we already have here ready for our semi-finals. So it's only a good thing. But yeah, I'm hoping for it to be a little bit closer for this region.
Looking forward to seeing which names will be able to etch their way into the semi-finals this time around as well in APAC. Let's move on to today's show, though. Luke, how is today's event going to be going down?
Well, they're going to go out in their cars and they're going to race.
Okay.
There are some rules and regulations. They've got qualifying first and foremost. That will decide our starting grid. In the stock car, they've got 5 minutes. We are indeed racing around a circuit that takes about 14 seconds to go around. So yeah, the 5 minutes, they only need about a minute and a half. But ultimately, yeah, they will be out there on lone qualifying. So that means they're out on circuit on their own. Then the open wheel and sports, they both have 10 minutes, but there is a difference. With the open wheel and iRacing, they indeed have lone qualifying as well. So that means they're out on circuit around the Nürburgring on their own. And then with the sports series on ACC, everybody is out on circuit together. So that means that they have to find themselves some time and find themselves an opportunity, like a window of opportunity, to get in their best lap times. Traffic will be a problem. All 30 players will score points for qualifying into today's final. Obviously, if you do not qualify in the top 3, or finish in the races in the top 3 at any point during the 5 months, if you continue to score points by just being in the finals, you have a genuine chance of reaching our semi-finals as well. But the top 3 do automatically make it through to our semi-finals, so that's where you want to be.
Exactly right, and you at home can compete as well. Here at the Logitech McLaren G Challenge, you've got the opportunity to qualify in your own time. All you have to do, and I appreciate this is more difficult, it's tricky to do, but you need to be one of the top 30 qualifiers in your region. And if you successfully do that, you'll be invited to be part of the monthly race weekends like this one. And in the race weekends, you can get to the semi-final one of 2 ways. You either get one of those podium positions and you finish in the top 3, or you accumulate enough points by the end of month 5, and the top points finishers will be invited back to the semi-final.
Look, if I can qualify for these finals, or the they're not even semi-finals. What am I talking about? If I could qualify for the qualifiers, maybe you can. Anybody can. Who knows? LogitechGChallenge.com. Head to it. Sign up. It's free. Once you've made those semi-finals, you still got to perform because you want to make it to that grand final and potentially win some incredible prizes. So yeah, it doesn't stop just at the semi-finals.
Right, so every weekend matters, especially if you're just outside that top 3 and you want to make sure you get those points totals so that you can make it to the semi-finals. But moving on to today's races, they're going to be taking place on 3 different tracks using 3 different disciplines of racing as well. Luke, which tracks will be on today?
Well, for the stock car series, we are going to be using the Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 NASCAR Cup Series. And we're at Bristol Motor Speedway, not to be indeed confused with Bristol in the UK. That's a whole different Bristol. But yeah, it's a short circuit this time. First time we've had the short circuit indeed for the Logitech McLaren G Challenge. We head then to the second race of today, which is open wheel in the Dallara IR01. And we are at the Nürburgring GP. It's the most technical circuit we've had so far. It is absolutely fascinating how it went earlier on with the EMEA region, and I'm sure it'll be exactly the same for the APAC as well. And then we've got the sports McLaren 720S GT3 and its home territory for the APAC region. We're at Suzuka Circuit, and there's one different stipulation this time. We are racing in the nighttime, and it's absolutely glorious.
Absolutely beautiful, and I can't wait to see drivers go around that track again. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Over the last month, hundreds of racers were trying to qualify for their chance to be featured on today's broadcast in every discipline, but only 30 are able to make it onto today's show. So let's take a look at some of the races that we're going to be seeing throughout this evening. Luke, are there any particular names we should be watching out for?
Oh, baby, yes. We have got a star-studded cast for this one with no less than 6 semi-finalists back in today's monthly final with Matt Danson, Travis McDaniel, Graham Bunyan, Barry Neal, Robert Mason, and performer of the round for last month's finals, Reese McGillivray. There we go, first time nailed his name. That's it, my job done. This is pretty clever by all of them coming back and making it a lot harder for anyone else to qualify via the top 3 method. But the story here is that monthly final stalwart and not yet semi-final qualified driver Yuki Furuya is atop of the timesheets heading into today's race, albeit only by 0.003 of a second. Can it be 4th time lucky for the Japanese driver? Another Japanese driver to watch out for is Taigi Ishii. As a first-time qualifier, he is one of the fastest. He was 7th fastest overall. This is a much more racecraft dependent circuit, with slipstreaming having no real effect in terms of overtaking, so concentration and consistency are key with keeping the tyre wear down to a minimum. And let's now take a look at our open wheel finalists for the month. And well, top 2 this month are Josh Perwian and Jaden Ladich, but historically they have not returned to race. But I have just seen that Josh Pervian's gone live on Twitch with the Logitech McLaren G challenge, so I think we're going to see him race. So this makes my next comment redundant. So either we are going to get a treat to see them race on the grid, or it will become a little bit easier to qualify for the rest of the group. Well, we know one of them's going to be here at the very least. We have a new driver as C3 this month, Jared Sajakiewicz, but that is not all. There are 7 new drivers in total for this one, joining Jared, Indian driver Veer Chef, Aussies Isaac Nichols, Shane Toy, Steve Tobin and Tim Kalea, followed by New Zealand's Atish Debising. So this race is exciting for the reason of there are many new potential finalists. I cannot wait to see how this goes down, and turn 1 is going to be absolutely fascinating. What also will be fascinating is the Sports Card Challenge. This time out, we are at Suzuka in a night race, and the top 12 qualifiers are within 0.8 of a second of each other, with Dylan Tan spearheading the region with an incredible 1:58.818. Similarly to the Open World Challenge, we have a new driver at the top. Enter Indonesian driver Ferris Stanley. Second by just 1/10 of a second. Could we see a one-and-done passage to the semi-finals here? Shout out to Fabrice McCarthy representing British Indian Ocean Territory, a first for the G Challenge. One driver who has raced every month so far is Jeff Newton, and the fact that he is only 17th in terms of the qualifying time says to me we're in for an absolute smoke show of the final race this evening.
Really looking forward to seeing some of these guys on track a little bit later on, Luke. I mean, it's great to see so many of our returning drivers that have already qualified for the semi-final come back. Although we know there's a chance it's a little bit more malicious than that. They want to try and put as many roadblocks as possible in the way of everyone else, so that everyone still has to keep coming back from a finisher's point of view. And there's a double whammy to that as well, isn't there? Because if they know in advance that they can come back and basically stomp all over the guys that are qualifying for the semi-finals now, they're going to be feeling a lot better about their own chances once they make it to the semi-finals.
Yeah, there's plenty of positive to take from that, but I think the main one is that they just keep themselves well practiced, well versed for the semi-finals ultimately. Again, there's nothing that can prepare you for a race other than just racing. It's as simple as that. It's hard to indeed simulate. We saw earlier on 24 drivers around the circuit. It's very difficult to simulate that. It looks like we've only got 9 for this one, so big opportunities for some of these drivers to get themselves into the next round. I'm just looking here. Who has, well, we've got Darren Robb, we've got Stephen Butcher, and Matthew Smith. Those 3 drivers, again, all the other 6 are here, so there's 3 slots open and 3 new potential drivers.
Well, we'll see if they could go ahead and do it. Now, for those of you who either haven't driven on Bristol Motor Speedway before and want to learn a little bit more about it, or for maybe those of you that are looking to find a way to shave a couple of thousandths of a second off that 14-second lap time, let's take a quick look at this track via a video we prepared earlier. Tennessee's Bristol Motor Speedway, billed as the world's fastest half mile, is one of the most popular NASCAR tracks in existence, and the venue of the Logitech McLaren G Challenge in October's Stock Car Discipline. Let's get stuck in. The all-concrete surface and stadium seating at Bristol make it one of the loudest tracks, creating an amphitheater-like atmosphere that is an absolute fan favorite. The banking makes the high line quite fast at Bristol, and combined with the short track, this can make it more difficult for drivers to pass. Qualifying performance and getting a good slot on the grid will be more important here. During the race, this track is well known for eating up the front right tire. And because cars can often be on the high line, drivers will want to be wary that a moment of lapsed concentration doesn't result in a date with the wall. What are you waiting for? Visit logitechgchallenge.com to enter and see you on track. And here we are in a qualifying for the Bristol Motor Speedway, the fastest lap time to be featured in the Logitech McLaren G Challenge. And we've already seen some dead heats in terms of times in qualifying this season. It's every single thousandth of a second here is going to matter.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's talk about time. I feel like you're paid by the minute at this point, John, because how have you managed to stretch a 14-second track out to what, 3 minutes there in a video?
Oh, have you seen my 2-hour Nordschleifer video?
You're an absolute con artist, but we love it. Matt Danson is the fastest as it stands by 0.02 of a second. Absolutely nothing. The leg of a gnat is the distance between those two. Travis McDaniel then and Graham Bunyan indeed take your top three. And let's talk about Yuki Furuya. He's not here. So yeah, he's qualified as the top qualifier, but unfortunately not going to make it. So yeah, with some of the most points out of everybody in terms of qualifying towards the semi-finals, missing a race this week could put him into a bit of trouble, unfortunately. But look at here, Matt Danson, currently P1, he's already qualified. Travis McDaniel, P2, already qualified. Graham Bunyan, P3, already qualified. Barry Neal, who is already qualified, isn't racing today. We've also got Damien B, he's not here as well. Well, that's Robert Mason. Did Robert Mason make it back? No, he has not.
No.
And then we've got Reese McGillivray, who is racing. So Jeff Newton, Isaac Nichols, we've got Stephen Butcher, Matthew Smith, and Darren Robb. Those are the drivers that are looking for that top three spot. Can they indeed overturn the deficit that Matt Danson, McDaniel, and Bunyan have? Of course, those three have been stalwarts in this competition thus far, and while they are going to be a tough cookie to crack, that is for sure.
The good news, I suppose, is that with fewer drivers on the grid, it means that there are fewer drivers that can potentially overhaul Yuki Furuya's points tally. But still, you're right. Effectively, coming back here, especially as the fastest time, would have essentially been a slam dunk and a ticket to the semifinals in itself. So it's interesting to note that he's not here, but we've got to work with what we have here. 7 seconds left in qualifying. All of our cars separated by 0.6 of a second, which I appreciate that Bristol Motor Speedway is probably a bigger gap than most tracks, shall we say.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you there. I feel like oval racing hasn't really kicked off in the APAC region as much as maybe we would have thought. It's probably the weakest in terms of participation numbers overall in this competition, right. So that's probably another reason as to why we're seeing that. But again, we have got plenty of drivers that are indeed qualifying week in or month in, month out. So I don't think we're going to be too worried once we get to the final kind of stage for it. And that makes it even more important just to indeed show up in the final, get those points on the board and move forward to the semis.
Exactly right. So for these 9 drivers, the qualifiers are over. We'll take a look now at the track conditions. 25-degree ambient temperature and just a shade under 40 degrees for the track surface itself. A light breeze and cloudy conditions basically mean nice, hot, sticky conditions for racing. And if Bristol didn't eat your tires up quickly already, well, a 40-degree track temperature should ensure that gets accelerated a little bit more. And with 70 laps today, we were wondering in EMEA earlier whether anyone was going to risk pitting. No one did in the end, but that just means that if you're very, very aggressive on the low line and really trying to squeeze every possible thousandth out of the... Wow, I can't English today. Thousandth out of the car in the early laps, it means that you could really be suffering later on in the race. Here is your grid. Matt Danson, and then we've got Travis McDaniel. They make up the front row. Behind them, Graham Bunyan and Jeff Newton. We then have Isaac Nichols and Reese McGillivray, or Reese MC, which I am a big fan of. I think Luke would be very happy to stick with Reese MC there, and I would absolutely agree with him. Stephen Butcher and Matthew Smith are row 4, and then Darren B makes up number 9.
And if they don't qualify the top 3, Darren B and Reese MC, they could be a duo, they could be DJs, and they can give us the after party that we deserve.
10% royalties coming our way.
Absolutely, absolutely. Right, here we go then. We'll wait for them all to indeed go around the circuit a couple of times, and then it will be a 70-lap race. If anybody was to risk a pit stop this time round, you're less likely to gain that time back because there's less back markers effectively in this race, if at all. So yeah, the leaders won't be losing too much time to the back markers. Like we saw earlier on with 24 cars, it becomes effectively an Asda car park, you know, when all of the boy racers are there. But with only 9 cars on the grid, more than likely everyone's going to go to the end here on one set of tyres. So that makes complete sense. Again, we're just waiting for the pace car to take us away, and there we go. So it'll be 2 laps here at Bristol. Then the pace car will come in, and then it will be all about the lead 2 cars as well. Travis McDaniel just sends it into a wall straight off the bat. That is not the technique I would have gone for.
So testing the integrity there, maybe doing a little bit of pre-race weight saving by shedding a couple of those side panels from the car. Whatever it is, hopefully it hasn't actually resulted in real damage, but that did make me look twice at my screen going, is this really what we're seeing under the pace car? I think we should be able to get away fine.
Yeah, Travis McDaniel's going to need a Travis Perkins and get some, some material to get the car fixed already here. Out the pit lane they come. Anyway, we're around the lap for the first time. And then we go around the second. They're 2 by 2. Travis McDaniel then is P1 with Reese McGillivray in P2. But I think it's Butcher who will start. And he said, no, hold on. No, it's not. It's going to be Matt Danson. So Matt Danson in the number 30 car starts on the inside line. But the number 2 of Travis McDaniel is in, I guess, P2. So actually, Matt Danson on the pole. I don't know. He'll figure itself out after a lap, I would imagine. But yeah, we're nearly ready to rock and roll. Pace car will come in, and then Bob's down to the run. We're off into the distance, and race time ensues. Graham Bunyan there in the number 69. Nice. In P3 on the inside line as well. And well, there we go. We are off and away. And Matt Danson takes them off here for the APAC region. It's the first race of 3. We're here for the Stock Car Challenge. We're here at Bristol. Matt Danson with Travis McDaniel just in behind. But actually, I think Bunyan already up. No, sorry, there's Travis McDaniel. It was Matt Danson hiding behind the timing boards there. I had no idea where he was. But again, very similarly to what we saw in race number 1. Into the lead then is Matt Danson. But look at the different lines being taken here already, John. Again, we're seeing maybe different strategies in play already.
Exactly right. Matt Danson being so aggressive, hugging that inside line and really trying to squeeze every bit of time the circuit might have to offer, taking the car out as wide as possible. But then, of course, that potentially shreds the tires if you do that too quickly and too often. He has built out a half-second lead on Travis McDaniel to begin with, but is that going to come back and bite him later in the race? Earlier in the EMEA race, we were wondering the same thing. And to be fair, they managed to make it through to the end while maintaining the lead.
I tell you what, this is phenomenal stuff to see Matt Danson and Travis McDaniel in P1 and P2. Great, good for them. They've already qualified. I like what we're getting with our with the Observer team right now. They are focusing on the main position we want to look at. P3, Isaac Nichols in P4 and Jeff Newton in P5. Neither of them have booked their tickets to the semi-final. So Graham Bunyan holds that golden ticket here. So keeping an eye on this battle is absolutely vital here. So this is great stuff, but it does look like Graham Bunyan is just pulling out ever so slightly a little bit of a lead here. It's just now whether really Isaac Nichols and Jeff Newton can hang with them. The top 3 in this, they are the fastest 3 qualifiers apart from Yuki Furuya, who's not in the race this year. You're expecting them to be the top 3, but can anyone overturn that top 3? They have been that quick all year long.
Jeff Newton right on the back of Isaac Nichols, who in turn is about half a second down on Graham Bunyan at the moment, but we might see them bunch up a little bit. This is going to be in for the long haul, guys. It's a 70-lap race. That's right, 7-0, because the lap is frankly just so short here at Bristol. But you're constantly focusing on what's ahead. Basically, blink and you miss it. And like Luke said in the build-up, concentration is absolutely key. One single moment of lapse concentration, and unfortunately that could be your race over. And already look at that, Jeff Newton almost going into the back of Isaac Nichols there. Yes, they were different lines, but you have to be on the lookout for that, especially when different lines are perfectly feasible around this half mile.
Nichols hit the wall. That's what happened. He checked out. He's done it again.
Oh no!
The wall twice. Yeah, so that's why the opportunity has presented itself here. Door wide open then for the number 71, Jeff Newton, who again has been here month in, month out, whereas Isaac Newton has not. And he's just put too much pressure on himself. Jeff Newton then has just tried to keep the power down and keep himself on the inside line there. And unfortunately, just took too of an acute angle. Only 12 laps into this race. The tyres are still going to be very good nick, to be honest. And unfortunately, was not able to hold the car. And well, can Isaac Nichols use this to his advantage now, or is it going to be in vain? Because already the front three, they are off into the distance here.
Really, really good illustration as well of, well, it's oval racing, you know. It's the same couple of corners every lap. How difficult could it be in just adjusting that power, especially when in a slightly different line? It's actually quite subtle, isn't it? And Jeff Newton, to be honest, was right on the edge between being able to make that move stick and unfortunately sliding the car slightly too much. We're talking tiny percentages there.
For me personally, oval racing is more difficult than road racing. I genuinely believe that. It's just every single circuit is so different. You've got to approach it in a different manner as well. The tyre wear scenario is just ridiculous because the tyres are just so different to what they use in road tyres. There's no aero really on these cars as well, especially with like NASCAR. They are literally boxes on wheels. So again, it is all about the driver. It's all about the driver.
We've got a Quantum Pay replay of exactly what happened with Jeff Newton there. So let's go ahead and break that back down as we come out of the banking there. And you can see just the tiniest bit of oversteer. But frankly, at these speeds, that's enough. And if that wall wasn't there, he'd be spinning all the way into the infield. Yeah,
for sure. Like the wall has kind of saved him from doing any permanent damage to the trailers in the middle of the park. But, you know, it is what it is. And yeah, that's effectively going to be race over there. We'll have damage to the front of the car as well. There's a big old shunt to the wall. As much as these cars don't have any aero, really, when you do put them out of shape, they become very much less aerodynamic. Still relatively fast here, but yeah, I don't think we'll be setting the world alight unless we see a couple of drivers in the front end make some mistakes. You see that Bunyan is losing touch with the leaders, but also gapping Isaac Nichols. So Nichols is very much on his own here, and it's kind of, yeah, a bit gutted for him at this stage. But there's 8 cars going around this circuit right now. We saw earlier on, backmarkers can make mistakes. Anyone can make a mistake. We just saw Jeff Newton do it himself there. And ultimately, you just don't want to be getting involved in anything like this, exactly like this. So we were just watching, hold on, was that Bunyan? Was that the number 89? That might be Darren Robb, actually. It looked like the 69 of Bunyan. But there's Matt Danson. So yeah, it wasn't for sure. Matt Danson leads out here. He's just lapping Darren Robb. So he's one lap down there. So there's the confirmation. But yeah, it's ironically, Darren and Graham have both got exactly the same colours cars. So I just caught a glance there of the top number and I just saw the 9. So I wasn't sure which one which. But yeah, Matt Danson, you can just see how different his line looks to everybody else's. He just looks so in control. It just looks fast. Whereas you look at everyone else, it's kind of like they're just kind of trying to get the car to the end. But Matt Danson looks in so much control here. And yeah, very much the star of the show as it stands.
It's interesting that he's taking such an aggressive line as well, just wanting to make sure he goes all the way down the inside, using the entire width of the track. At the moment, it's lap 24 out of 70. So not quite at the halfway point yet, after which I would imagine the tyres start screaming and doing what Matt Danson is doing in the second half of the race. Still possible, Luke, but it's going to require a little bit more concentration, shall we say, as the tyres scream no more.
Yeah, the only thing he needs to be wary of is this situation here where he's up the inside, and then similarly to what happened with Jeff Newton, a driver on his outside gets on the power too early and gets a load of oversteer because look at the banking of the circuit. Yep. Which direction is that car going to go? It's going to go the way the track's banked, you know?
You don't really want to be dealing with misunderstandings like that. We saw a couple of those earlier on as well. It does make it a bit easier with fewer cars on track. It means that going through back markers, negotiating traffic, trying to anticipate where the drivers around you are going to go to get the smoothest line possible and to gain time on your rivals. That's not needed quite as much in this race. But you would be mistaken if you thought that that means they can afford to sort of chill out and concentrate any less. Absolutely not the case. A couple of missed hundredths of concentration here and there. You end up taking the wrong line, you tag the wall, or worse.
Isaac Nichols here has lost a massive amount of time now to the front three. We're on board with him right now, and he's now around about 13 seconds of the lead. And you know, with oval racing, as soon as you start losing time, it's just every single lap, it will just continue to grow, until I would imagine Jeff Newton's about to be lapped here, actually. So I think Matt Danson is on pace right now to potentially lap up to P3. Could get everyone lapped here up towards P3. There we go. There's Jeff Newton dispatched off. So the next driver for him will be indeed Isaac Nichols. I'm not sure he might catch up to Bunyan. Yeah, it could be close for him to catch up to Bunyan. I don't think he'll catch up to P2. But this is an absolute clinic from Matt Danson right now.
If you're Jeff Newton right now, you're going to want to try and follow Matt Danson. You can see he's not actually following very closely, but that could have been a potential ticket to get Jeff Newton back up on the bumper of Isaac Nichols. Not to be, though, by the looks of things.
No, for sure. There's Isaac Nichols there himself, and again, making a little error on the power a little bit too early on the corner and just gets very squarely on the exit. And ultimately, Matt Danson would have seen that because it was in front of him and just needs to be a bit more wary. And you were saying earlier that it's a bit easier because the lack of cars out on the circuit. Maybe you take that for granted. Maybe you don't, you know.
Exactly.
You're a little bit less cautious. Lapping cars think it's going to be a little bit easier, and that's indeed when the lack of concentration comes in, and that's where the mistakes can happen here. As the number 71 now, Jeff Newton is now being lapped by Travis McDaniel. So McDaniel's actually dropped back a little bit here, 3.3 seconds. But this kind of the lead 5 drivers really have got some serious pace. As you can see, though, the number 71 is being very clever here. And could Jeff Newton potentially be using Travis McDaniel here to get dragged back up towards Isaac Nichols? Again, slipstreaming is a factor around circuits such as this, but it's not as big a factor because they are having to let off the gas and they have to make sure to make it around the corners. But yeah, if you can potentially use the car in front of you to gain a bit of an advantage, then absolutely go for it. Although it looks like Newton is not going to be very close here to Nichols. Nichols and Newton have both been dispatched now by Travis McDaniel. But ultimately, Graham Bunyan is the next driver to indeed come through. So we've got some side-by-side action here then between Matthew Smith and Stephen Butcher. And this is for position as it stands. And Matthew Smith is just about going to hold on here. A little bit of apron grab there by Stephen Butcher. And that is not ideal. That's actually going to cost him a silly amount of time. And Matthew Smith in P6. And again, a lap down on the field as it stands. But still nice to see, you know, 2 drivers battling out regardless of what position they're in, because of course the points do matter moving forward. And then the higher you finish, the more points you get.
Going to pause that fight for just a second to allow the leaders to come through, but they'll resume momentarily, I am sure. We actually have Darren Robb there now overtaking Stephen Butcher as well, so maybe losing a lot more time than he was expecting, but he should be able to get right back up on the tail end of the car. The question will be whether he can regain that position. At the moment, in between the corners, it does look like he's not weaving, but the car seems a lot more unsettled than the one that just passed him.
And he's trying to do a little bit more work as well. If you notice here on the number 13, look at him move over towards the wall before he goes to the entry of the corner.
Yeah.
So you see it there. It's not as pronounced that time, but if we look at the next corner here, you'll see that he is going to move over. And there you go. He moves over on the exit, kind of. It doesn't look very natural. It looks like he's having to deliberately do that. And if you're on your game and you've got, you know, with 43 laps into the race, you can feel the track underneath you. You can feel exactly where you need to be turning in, and it just you naturally glide up to that wall to maximise the speed around a circuit like this. But it just looks a very deliberate. That's the word, deliberate. I was looking for. Travis McDaniel then looking to come through here as well, as once again Darren Robb battling with the 77. I think Matthew Smith's dropped down here, and this is what Travis McDaniel does not want. Does not want a couple of back markers battling for position to indeed get involved in this race. And there's actually 3 cars here. It's almost like a police chase formation as they box up towards the wall. I think he's going to get through relatively unscathed there, but Travis McDaniel already qualified, so it's not going to be, you know, the biggest panic in the world. Will very much know now that this is a distinct possibility. These 3 are racing for position, and they may cause problems for the leaders because they're not going to want to yield a position at all here. But this is fascinating to see that, you know, we are still seeing racing action at its finest this far back.
A mistake there by Matthew Smith by the looks of things, and Darren Robb was almost alongside, now gets alongside and gets past, and then Stephen Butcher alongside him as well. So I think Matthew Smith scrubbed off a bit more speed there than he was expecting, and that's going to be a little bit unfortunate for him. Next up the road, though, of course, is Jeff Newton, the number 71 car. Started in 4th, currently running in 5th. Doing pretty well. P4, pardon me. 48 laps out of 70 now, so getting close to 2/3 of the way through this race.
Yeah, this is for P4, I say. So we saw the mistake earlier that Nichols did that caused Jeff to run into the wall, but ultimately Jeff's recovered nicely here, and he's called back up to the back here. So, yeah, these two are now battling for position as it stands. Oh, another mistake there from Nichols, and up the inside, Jeff Newton will go. And again, the high side's going to be faster. Now Matt Danson closes up the race leader, and again, this is not what they want. And you wouldn't want one of these two drivers to think, well, actually, if we take out the leader here, then there's a position up for grabs. That's exactly what sort of would happen in the real NASCAR, that's for sure. They don't mess around there. They'll do anything to gain a position. But ultimately, Matt Danson comes through once again, and it looks like Jeff Newton now is up to P4. So if anyone does make a mistake and falls off the face of the earth, ultimately, now Jeff Newton would inherit that third spot. But these two are still going at it here. It's brilliant.
Yeah, they're absolutely not letting up at the moment. Just under 20 laps remaining now to the end of this first race. And even though we've had fewer drivers here than the EMEA race, some very fierce battles for position. One thing we can't say is as fierce, though, from a competition point of view, is just how unbelievably fantastic Matt Danson's drive is. He's a full 8 seconds away now from Travis McDaniel, and I don't think he's put a wheel wrong all race.
No, definitely not. We saw him get boxed in. We saw Danson nearly get involved with these battling for position. You can see now that Brunyon's the next driver to come and get involved here. Jeff Newton has now got rid of Isaac Nichols effectively in P4, and that must be demoralising. Knowing that the top three qualify and then you're being lapped here for the second time by P3 themselves, like it's kind of like you know that you're in some serious trouble.
I mean, it also just goes to show pace. I realize that this is the shortest lap time of any circuit, but at the end of the day, within 20 minutes, being lapped twice, you have to have consistent advantages in speed to be able to do that. It sounds elementary, of course, but when you're the car being passed, you're watching them go past going, how on earth is that even possible? Where is that extra speed coming from? And where are the subtleties that are allowing this driver to find these tiny amounts of time that over the course of 70 laps really do add up to quite a lot, as we can see here?
Yeah, but you learn more when you lose. You learn more with your losses than you do when you win. So as long as you are indeed developing as a driver and you're taking in, you've got to be like a sponge during these races. As long as you're taking in the information, ultimately you're going to become a better driver for it as well. So, and 1 more month to go, John. It's not like it's over here. They've still got one more chance to qualify, and yes, I'm sure that they're going to be back for that next month as well. And ultimately, you may get into the position where it's like, that happened to me last time. Maybe if I do this certain thing the different way, it's going to be a different result. Change the variables, learn from your mistakes, move on, become a better driver. And that will, I think we've already seen Jeff Newton do that during this race, to be honest, because of course he's battling with Nichols. He got overtaken by Nichols. Nichols made a mistake, then he binned it into a wall, but he kept his calm. He realised that he was probably a quicker driver and caught back up. And well, look at him now, he's in P4, so he didn't get past Nichols. And yeah, so I think there's been lessons learned while the race has been happening live here, as we've now got Isaac Nichols once again here with Travis McDaniel. McDaniel, of course, in P2, 11.5 seconds in the lead with 8 laps to go. Could be close here for the potential for Matt Danson to lap the field. And that would be a hell of a story for sure. It
would be. If manages to lap everybody else, that would be quite the statement to make here. Certainly making it look easy, and if you think it is, why don't you go ahead and join us in month number 5. Visit logitechgchallenge.com. This could be you at the end of next month participating in our monthly race weekends. If you think this looks all right and you think you have what it takes, go ahead, be one of the top 30 drivers, and we'll see you on track next month. I can tell you, though, that every ounce of concentration is being squeezed out of the drivers that are on track right now.
Absolutely, and Matt Danson will be walking around for the next 3 or 4 days with his neck turned to the left, head turned to the left slightly as well. You will find that when you're sat in your sim rig, you will move your body towards the left. It's worth an extra couple of thousands, I'm telling you.
That's because it's Australian.
When I'm sim racing.
For us, it's towards the right.
That is that as well, and also the toilet flushes a different way as well. Apparently, that's a myth, I think, as well. I don't know. Who knows? One day we'll find out.
Oh no, that's real. That's real.
Oh, is it?
It is.
Oh, wow, okay.
As a card-carrying Australian, at least on paper, I can tell you that is categorically correct.
I'm going to be honest, I have never looked down my toilet sufficiently enough to figure out which way it goes here, so I wouldn't know if it went left or right, so I don't know.
It goes down.
So, I still don't believe you, but it's fine. I kind of believe it, but it is what it is. We're heading towards the final few laps here, John. I guess it's getting really late for us, and we're now starting to get very tired indeed. And Matt Danson is... Where is Matt Danson? He should be just coming up behind them here. And with 2 laps to go, I don't think it's quite going to be the case of lapping the field. But yeah, Matt Danson will be just behind. Yeah, he's just started the 69th lap of the race here, so 1.5 to go, and job is a good one. But Matt Danson, who has been an absolute star of the championships for the APAC region in terms of stock car, has absolutely been a star today, hasn't he?
He really has. Final lap now starting. Matt Danson, lap 70 out of 70 now. And, oh my God, I mean, just the fact that we're talking about how he's just managed to not quite lap the field shows us how imperious a drive this has been. Matt Danson takes the checkered flag, almost laps the field en route to victory here in the Logitech McLaren G Challenge Round 4 stock car race.
Yeah, good stuff. Well done, Matt. Congratulations. It was a canter, really, if we're going to be completely honest there. Travis McDaniel in P2. I think the biggest challenge, really, for these drivers was just to negotiate the traffic. And ultimately, we've got 3 new drivers that won races today. And we've got like 9 new drivers qualified from the EMEA region. We head to APAC and, well, 1 race down, no new qualifiers. 3 already qualified drivers have blocked those spots for everybody else and making everyone else work that little bit harder to qualify. So that means that everybody has to come back again in the 5th round or the 5th month. There's no break for them to try and re-qualify.
Well, when we were looking at the drivers' names before starting today, we did notice that in APAC, a lot more of the qualified drivers are coming back to try and block. And that's exactly what they successfully did today, at least in the stock car race. Let's take a look at our final results. Powered by a Splunk. Here we go. Matt Danson taking the victory there with Travis McDaniel, the only driver not to be lapped, will be on the podium alongside Graham Bunyan. Behind them, we've got Jeff Newton and Isaac Nichols making up the top 5. Darren Robb will finish in a credible 6. Stephen Butcher, Matthew Smith, and Reese McGillivray will complete the 9 drivers that took to the grid today. So here's a couple of the moments from that race. Pretty decent start, I have to say, grabbing in half a second to begin with. Very, very useful here in Bristol. And then a couple of instances of just a little bit of overdriving, followed by a bit of redemption later on in the race, Luke.
I used to use the walls in Gran Turismo to make coins to buy cars back in the day. I used to leave an elastic band on the controller. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the same effect in iRacing. So using the walls is a bad thing. But yeah, we just saw Jeff Newton there, who kind of had a very indifferent race at the start. He was putting pressure on Isaac, and it didn't quite work out, and actually made a mistake. And then he managed to re-catch up and then retake the position. So yeah, congratulations to him. It's a phenomenal display in the end, and I think it's something he can take moving forward in this championship. But the day belongs to Matt Danson. He has been superb once again, and we just don't really expect anything less. So moving forward in this competition, for sure, one of the favourites to win the whole thing.
Exactly right. And it's a bit of a shame that we also know that Reese McGillivray turns out had internet issues once we headed into the race as well. But we look forward to having him back in month number 5. And of course, he will secure some valuable points for himself in the standings anyway. So fingers crossed we see him again next month. But that was race number 1 over. Massive thank you to Splunk, Logitech G, Quantum Pay, and McLaren for helping us put on the event and indeed this show. Coming up next, we go to the Nürburgring, where we hop into the Dallara IR01s as the open wheel competition takes shape for this month. See you in a bit. Welcome back to the Logitech McLaren G Challenge. I'm your host, John Sargent. Joining me is Luke Craig. We've just had the stock car race, and next we're going to be moving into the open wheel. And even with fewer competitors in the stock car race, they still had to negotiate back markers. It was still a little bit tricky, and several of the drivers had brushes with the wall as well. So it just goes to show, even though it's not that crowded, you can't let your concentration disappear even for a split second.
Yeah, that's short track racing though, in a nutshell. Effectively a 14-second lap, you're going to run into other cars eventually. People, as much as you would expect, potentially 9 really fast drivers could just follow each other around a circuit. People lose time, people make little mistakes, and over a 70-lap race, you make one mistake every 2 laps. It's going to cost you a substantial amount of time, and ultimately you're going to get caught.
Well, we're moving over to a racetrack where we're definitely not having a 70-lap race, although frankly, if we did, I wouldn't mind taking a look at one. This is the Nürburgring. As we hop on board, what a brilliant camera angle that is. It makes it look like you've got the world's longest legs there. Very interesting stuff, very bright as well, the inside of that cockpit. So we're going to be hopping into qualifying for Nürburgring, and if you're looking to figure out how to get better or just take a look at a bit more of the track in general, then look no further. We've got a couple of tips for you to check out, but really just a bit of an overview of the circuit so you can see where our drivers are going to be racing it today. Take a look. The Nürburgring, home of the Nordschleife, the green hell. This historic Grand Prix circuit will be our open wheel battleground for the Logitech McLaren G Challenge this month. Let's get stuck into the lap. The downhill braking zone into turn 1 can catch drivers out, especially in racing conditions where your focus is partly on other cars. Running wide can cost valuable places in a tight race, so make sure you don't misjudge your braking point and get a good line into the infield. Coming out of the arena section, cars can snap oversteer due to quick changes of direction. Keeping this under control, carry as much speed as you can through the corner entry of turn 6 towards the forward curve, staying as wide as possible on corner entry so you can get a good run through the downhill straight to the Dunlop curve later. The uphill braking zone into the Vidal chicane later in the lap lets you steal a slightly later braking point, but don't be too greedy. The curbs on this corner can punish cars and lap times heavily, so a poorly judged line or braking point will compound your mistake through to the final corner. So, what are you waiting for? Visit logitechgchallenge.com to enter, and we'll see you on track. And we are now in qualifying on the Nürburgring GP circuit. This is the open wheel section of the Logitech McLaren G Challenge. Not too many cars in bright purple. That's the number 26 car of Isaac Nichols, currently running in 6th position. Oh, and taking liberties with that curve and needing to compensate as a result, but unfortunately not quite enough.
Well, that's one way of going into the pits, I guess.
Right.
Also, I love this field of view. It's kind of like the whole, tell me you don't race in iRacing without telling me you don't race in iRacing. Because anyone that races that field of view, that is just mind-blowing. But yeah, that was the worst place to possibly make a mistake like that and overheat the tyres is right before the final corner, because now you've got to go into the pits, you've got to come back out and do a whole lap before you start another flying lap. So with only 6 minutes to go, you just put yourself under a lot of pressure. And Nichols, of course, has just been involved in our stock car series, so it's difficult to transition, but it's difficult to race in one of these series, but it's difficult to transition between two. And now when you've only got one lap, maybe two, ultimately it's put itself under a lot of pressure. Josh Perwin, by the way, is the fastest by 0.8 of a second.
And perhaps no surprise there, Josh Perwin has been consistently one of the fastest drivers on the planet, let alone in this region, and he's been doing a tremendous job There you can see him in the number 28 car, 132.38. Actually, the only driver to dip below 131 at the moment even. So that really is a very dominant lap time as things stand. But that said, it's not the end of the session yet. There's 5.5 minutes left in qualifying. We'll see how many drivers are able to get close to him. Or maybe even faster.
Jared Serkovic then currently in second position. He is new to the championship, so good to see him not only qualify, but to be right at the sharp end and potentially booking his place to the semi-finals on the form he's showing right now. But has anybody got a racing name quite like Kazuki Vegeta? That is the most racing name ever. Like, I don't care how fast you are, that's like worth half a second on its own.
Well, yeah, we'll see him in Formula One in a couple of years, no doubt about it. And currently running in P3 as well, so pretty speedy around the Nürburgring. And I love how you can see a couple of these. You know, when you get the cockpit field of view, you can sort of feel when the car's sliding. But you've got, even in this third-person camera, the director camera, you can actually see how much the drivers are sort of wrestling the car around some of these corners, getting down on the power early, trying to control the slide, especially coming out of the arena section earlier on as well. We saw a couple of drivers slide right out of there. They're really on the ragged edge to look for every single tenth.
You can tell when people are on the ragged edge of the car is when they don't use the full circuit. Right now, we're seeing a driver use a full circuit, but we were just on board with someone who was, and I'm not too sure who it was. I think actually it might have been Phil Blackburn, actually, because it's the only pink car in the field. Oh no, it's Adrian Windmill. We did see his name, actually. So Adrian Windmill, you can just tell he's not using the whole circuit because that's one of two things. One, you're not comfortable with the car, or two, you're just so scared of it snapping oversteer, you're just trying to get it in a straight line as soon as possible, and you're not worried about opening up corners. As you can see here, we've got a lovely onboard here. Again, not too sure which driver this is particularly. It might be Matthew Smith. Actually, it is Matthew Smith, the only orange car in the field. And you can see there, he's running over the white lines before he goes into the final chicane. And you'll see then he'll run up right onto the curbing on the outside. And, once again, onto the white lines. He'll run out wide onto the curbing here. And again, he's just doing a little bit of correction. And you see he's as far left as he possibly can, which means he can just carry more speed through the corner. It's a less of an angle going through the corner. And he's turning in as late as he possibly can as well. Again, it just makes it so much easier to get on the power on the exit of the corner. So again, it's all about setting yourself up to be on the power as early as possible. So sometimes it's worth braking earlier than maybe you can potentially do, just because you make more time on the exit. Although that's a very scrappy, that'll be a 1x. And that will be the lap time invalidated, unfortunately, here. But again, you can just see that this is someone who's very, very, very composed with the car and absolutely using every inch of the race circuit.
Yeah, very composed. Coming out of that arena section as well, having to deal with so many changes of direction. It's perhaps no surprise that a minor mistake creeps in. Very technical part of the circuit. There will be enough time, of course, to get another flying lap in. 2.5 minutes left in qualifying. And we have indeed got Jared Serkovic just about within 2/10 actually at the moment. So on the front row, still P2 as opposed to P1, but it's nice giving the fastest cars in the field a run for their money here. So Josh Perwin will have something to look at in his rearview mirror.
Yeah, for sure. We're on board with him right now, number 33. And as if by magic, as soon as we go on board with the car, they decide to go back into the pits.
Right.
And yeah, just classic. Thanks for helping us out there. There's the number 9. Oh, and well, as if by magic, another car's now going to magically appear into the pits. And now all the car's bits are falling off and there's dancing. And there's another car we go on board with will end up in the pits. Now, well, we will stay on board with this car, and I reckon now within the next 5 seconds they'll slow down.
But he can't get into the pits.
And well, looks like we're going to get another lap time here from a car. Finally, yay! Someone actually wanted to take advantage of being out on circuit. Again, some of these drivers would have waited a little bit longer to get their lap times in than others, hoping the circuit gets a little bit more rubbered in. Track temperature change, and well, nope, they've just gone into the pits. Brilliant. The other pink car then, and this is the number 420. This is Phil Blackburn, and he is on an absolute flyer. We're actually looking here at sort of like a chase view, but from the front, so a rear chase view, I guess. And we're coming through the hairpin. Not using every inch of the circuit here. 32.4, pretty modest time for Phil, but he'll be happy with P8. I think he can work with that. Again, it's a circuit here that it's kind of more about the driver than it is about the car. What I mean by that is slipstreaming is not as big as an effect here as it has been at, say, Watkins Glen without the bus stop chicane. Spa, for instance, like here, especially sector number 1, it's really about you and you extracting that rotation performance from the car. Up towards that final chicane we come, and again, not really using the whole circuit here, so I'm not really expecting this to be too much faster. And as we come up towards the, you just as well do the whole pit lane for us, and you make us wait the whole lap. So everybody we've got on board with in the last 4 minutes have come into the pits, and the last one trolled us so bad they went around the whole lap to then go in the pit lane at the end.
That's incredible. It looked like they were giving it a reasonable go as well. It must have been an aborted lap after a poor second sector or something similar. Let's see if we have one more into the pit lane. Oh, well, I think a quick hit of the escape key is going to ensure that happens as well. So that is qualifying over, I believe, at the Nürburgring Grand Prix. We'll be getting that grid up for you shortly, but certainly an eventful qualifying session where it looks like pretty much every single car set their best lap time in the first half of it. Here are the track conditions: 25-degree ambient temperature and a shade under 40 degrees on track. Light breeze, 3 kilometers an hour, nothing to write home about, and cloudy conditions. We have a decent condition for the race. Everyone's going to be pretty happy. I don't think anyone, Luke, set their fastest lap time on their last lap out.
It's because they're all too busy going into the pits, John. Don't know what you expect, really, when they're stationary or they're in the pit lane.
Practicing
Can't really go fast, I'm afraid, mate.
Exactly. It might be a 2-stop race then, maybe, given how much everyone's practicing heading in.
It's gone pretty wrong as a 2-stop race, John.
Here is your grid. Josh Perwin lines up on pole position with Jared Surkovitz alongside him in second place. Kazuki Fujita will be in third, and I love these. Jaden J is going to be in fourth. That is absolutely going to be my rapper name. Jeff Newton in fifth, lining up alongside Connor Healy, and we then have Masakazu Kuriyama in seventh and Phil Blackburn in eighth. Fifth row of the grid then will be Jonathan Eaton and Matthew Smith.
So there's your top 10, ladies and gentlemen, and half of those have already trolled us with their way of going into the pits. We've then got Ryan DeCartier McCarthy, again, an incredible name there. Isaac Nichols then is in 12th position. We've got then Matt Barrisville and Adrian Windmill in 13th and 14th. We've got Atish Debising in 15th. We've got Bruce Long in 16th. And then we've got Jackson Starrett and Rohit Raut as your final 2 drivers on the grid. We've got our racing action happening right now. We're about to go green light racing here for the second race of the APAC region for month 4 of the finals. We're here at the Nürburgring GP, and well, let's hope for an absolute crackerjack of a race.
I don't know what sort of items of fashion DeCartier McCarthy produces, but I know they're going to be expensive, and I know I want some already. We'll see if he can make up some positions on the grid and potentially get into top 5, top 6, maybe even eye up a podium if he's lucky enough. He's going to have one hell of a race, though, to do it from outside the top 10.
For sure, I would imagine he owns a yacht as well, which
oh yes,
there's any opportunity to go on that yacht at some point and sample the delights of yacht life, I'm absolutely down.
Monaco.
Here we go then. It's race time. 0 of 12 laps here. We promise we'll try and commentate from lap 0 to 12, opposed to leaving one lap out like we did at Suzuka earlier on. I say we, me. But, you know, we'll try and give you every lap for your money here. What a start it is, though, from Josh Irwin, who does indeed take us down. It's turbo number 1, and oh, that looked like that could have been very scrappy indeed. And I think Josh Irwin's got away with one as we've got a roller. We've got a roller, ladies and gentlemen, and that is going to be race over for the orange car. I'm trying to think who the orange... There's only one or two orange cars, there's just one in the race, but ultimately that is their race over right now. Once you get onto your roof, that is you Matthew done. Smith. Well, these cars don't even have a roof. So Matthew Smith, unfortunately, has just ended up then on the wrong way round. And ultimately, that's not the fastest way around the circuit.
It really isn't at all. That's going to be very awkward stuff indeed. Kazuki Fujita then in third place, Jared Surkovitz in second, and Josh Perwin leading the field here on lap 1. Most of the cars getting away all right, but the first 2 corners did look a little bit scrappy. Actually, only having 1 car, to be fair, potentially DNF'd as a result of that is... I don't really know what you can say to that, but I guess it could have been worse. Right now, though, people settling into single file. It looks like we are now starting the phase where everyone's just settling into their rhythm.
Yeah, it's Jaden Ladich who absolutely became sending McSendington down in towards turn number 1.
That was it, yes.
And it did look like he was going to completely clean out half the field. but ultimately no one was involved in it. And then the 3 wide in behind was what caused Smith to be ending up the wrong way round. So yeah, not ideal, but as we come up towards the end of lap number 1, Josh Perwin from pole position is leading this race. Ladic has moved up then from 4th up into 2nd, as we see a potential move for 2nd, and actually the decision was to back out of that and not cause any potential incidents. These two are just going to live to fight another day, and Jared Sirkovic is, again, new to the championship, but ultimately doing a very, very good job here and racing with his head.
We have a Quantum Pay replay there of what happened as Matthew Smith went the way of Cirque du Soleil. Let's go ahead and take a look at what went on in the first corner. Oh my God.
There we go then. So it's 3 wide, and as you can see, he avoids every kind of contact. And oh, there we go. Do a barrel roll. And successfully negotiates the barrel roll. Doesn't get back onto the wheels. Gonna give that, there's a poor dismount for me. Gonna have to give that maybe a 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah,
but ultimately, the only... I bet he wishes he'd get 6.5 points, but unfortunately it's going to be 0 points for the DNF, which is not ideal. But up towards the leaders once again. It does. Sorry, we make a joke and we have a bit of a laugh about something like that. Ultimately, the reason why is because no one's really at fault for that. It was 3 wide. He avoided the car on the left-hand side. The car on the right-hand side, has left the room on the outside. Only one car is going to know it's 3 wide in that situation. The car on the outside is not going to know about the car on the far inside. He's only going to know about the car in the middle. The car on the inside is not going to know about the car on the far outside. They're only going to know about the car in the middle, and the middle car knows about both of them. So the middle car ultimately will get squeezed in those situations 9 times out of 10. And it's normally because either the outside car or the inside car has only left the car's width with one car, which is what you're supposed to leave in the racecraft book that doesn't exist. So yeah, ultimately that's what happens. It's the nature of the beast, and you can make a laugh and a joke about it. I feel sorry for Smith, but he has 1 more month to come back and try and qualify. So yeah, all is not lost.
Jeff Newton now defending and taking some defensive lines, actually, from the 2 cars behind him, who have swapped positions, I think, at least once in the last lap. So that's going to be a very interesting 3-way tussle going into what will now be the 1/3 mark of this race. It's a really nice battle heating up delightfully for, I believe it's 5th position at the moment those 3 drivers are racing over. So that's Jeff Newton, Connor Healy and Phil Blackburn very close to each other on track. Looking forward to seeing how that keeps brewing.
Yeah, Jonathan Easton should catch up to that pack as well if he doesn't mess around too much. Kazuki Fujita is, big mistake there from Jared Ladic. It looks like it was just a really quick line, but I can assure you there he was millimeters away from that car not returning on the exit of that corner. You can see that mistake has cost him the potential of P2. And actually, Sirkovic is just going to leave it. He's not really wanting to get too involved here. Someone's done their homework. Someone understands that top 3 go through. Doesn't really need to be taking any kind of chances here, but he definitely looks in control of the car. Whereas Ladic, from evidence we saw down towards turn number 1, is ultimately, as he actually is going to succumb to this move here. I think Sirkovic is going to make the move here. Room just about left on the outside. It's Ladic then. Sweet. Oh, that is the wheel removed from the car. That looked like that might have been a bit of netco there. And Sirkovic, so unfortunate there to indeed be the victim of that. And for me, I think Ladic could have left a little bit more room there. I felt like that was a little bit too aggressive. It's almost like the case of, I don't want to be overtaken. I'm not taking that. I feel like he could have been a little bit kinder in that situation.
I'm inclined to agree. It's especially after watching the overtakes early on in the race and seeing the kind of lines that he was taking to defend that position. I think it's fair to say a little bit of red mist maybe on Ladic there. He could have played it a bit more smart. Not necessarily sort of wagging your finger at him, kind of you're at fault territory at all, but unfortunately, that has led to the DNF of a driver. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Quantum Pay replay for that incident and exactly what went down. Let's give it a second look.
Yeah, so here we go then. So we see a lovely little move up the inside. It's textbook stuff.
Yep.
And just clips the apex. Runs a little, to be fair, no. Yeah, he runs a little bit wide there. No, I'm not sure. I'm not sure we can put that on Ladic at all there. The wheel popping off late like that. Well, yeah, I don't really know what we can say about that. Ultimately, but the actual squeeze was more from Sirkovic more than anything, in my opinion, looking at that a second time. So apologies there, Ladic.
No, Ladic stayed inside, didn't he?
Ladic He stayed to the left.
Yeah, exactly. He stayed to the left. It wasn't like he was squeezing.
No,
Anybody else,
Serkovic ran wide. Serkovic ran wide. He was late on the brakes into turn number 1. He ran wide.
Exactly.
And ultimately, he was one that squeezed the space. So, yeah.
Really unfortunate, especially for a driver posting such a good lap time, relatively new to our screens. The good news is we're looking forward to having Serkovic back in month number 5's race. The bad news is that'll be his last chance to qualify. That's a brutal way to end his race. Yeah,
he's obviously got the pace to be near the top 3, which is obviously a massive positive. But the fact that he's not been here for the previous 3 months, he hasn't got the whole scoring loads of points each month scenario to help him out. So it's kind of, he has to be in the top 3 next time out or it's game over. So it's a bit of a shame that he's maybe only discovered the competition late on. But yeah, Primoz rises to the top. I'm sure he'll be fine. He's got to think himself very unfortunate there in that situation. In all fairness, again, I don't really want to put the blame onto anyone in that situation. I feel like they were just both very, very unfortunate in the way that's just played out. But it is what it is. Anyway, back up to the leaders. Josh Perwin still leads the way. He's on 130.2 is the best lap of the race so far. Jaden Ladich is in 2nd position as it stands then. And we're on board here, I think. I don't know who we're on board with there, actually. We're on board with Battle here for on the number 14.
That's not Fujita, is it?
May well be here, you know. This actually might be the battle for P3. No, Jeff Newton's
no,
number 71.
That's Jonathan Eaton.
Yes, it is. So Isaac Nichols in behind. Isaac Nichols has been involved in a battle now for the best part of an hour. So it's just been constant. Oh, dear.
Well, there we go.
There's a check up there. So Newton has, unfortunately... I'm sorry. Do you know...
You're on a roll today, Luke. You're on a roll.
I'm talking about science. I'm thinking Isaac Newton. Not even joking. I've just got Jeff Newton and Isaac Nichols mistaken. So I'm thinking Isaac Newton. And I don't talk about science or even read about science ever. So I don't know where that's coming to my head, but there you go.
Law of gravity doesn't even apply to Luke Crane.
It must have been the force that he drove into the car in front of him.
Being involved in a fight for an hour, talks about it, instantly fight over. There we go. Easy does it.
And so many Newton meters were involved in that one.
Hey.
Oh, God. Science banter, ladies and gentlemen. That's what happens when you become a dad and you're depressed. I'm joking. Anyway, through the Schumacher as we come, mistakes are plenty right now. But yeah, we just saw there that Isaac Nichols, unfortunately, just got caught out by someone checking up in front of him. The 2 drivers in front actually made the mistake, but ultimately he's hit them.
Well, let's take a quick look at exactly what happened there to basically end that fight. Here is the Quantum Pay replay of exactly what went down in what is turning out to be quite an incident-filled race. Here we go.
So they're getting through there nicely here. Look, there we go. So the number 14 just checks up. And ultimately, Isaac was just not able to respond there at all. Just didn't have the reaction times, which you can't really expect him to have. So for me, no one's really at fault there. Blackburn was very slow on the exit of the corner. Eaton was not able to indeed reply with that. So yeah, it's just a bit of a shame how that's gone down there, unfortunately. John there just got very, very excited for some reason. I'm sure he's about to explain.
Very, very, almost a bit of a sideways moment there for Jaden Ladich, but to be perfectly honest, we've been seeing that for about half the race from him, properly on edge here. Some data-driven insights powered by Splunk, 134.72, doing a very good job at the moment. Started in 4th position, now in 2nd. You don't really get the feeling, looking at Jaden Ladich, do you, that he's clearly in control of the car, but my heart's in my throat every time we look at him on board, honestly.
Yeah, but that's how you get the maximum out of this car, as we explained earlier on. Ultimately, you have to slide the car on the exit.
On that.
You have to slide the car around corners to get the power down really, really early. It's almost like you need the car to be... So let's, for instance, that's a 180-degree hairpin we've just gone through onto the final corner, right? And it's almost like you need to be at 185 degrees on the exit to then correct it to get the power down. So you just need to be oversteering ever so slightly to get the maximum out of the car. Hopefully I kind of explained that well there.
Well, he's definitely doing that every single corner. He's properly on it. Look at that. It's like it's like he's propelling himself sideways through everything. But there is no lying. This is fast.
Yeah, this is intentional, for sure. And you think this is fast. Josh Perwin's 6 seconds up the road, so how fast is he going?
Yeah.
Like, that is scary pace. Kazuki Fujita is in 3rd position, but Jaden Ladic here and Josh Perwin, they both qualified. So they're already through to our semi-final, so only one driver here in Kazuki Fujita will qualify as it stands, and that will be, we've had, what, 9 different qualifiers from the EMEA region, and out of the 6 possible positions from the APAC region, we're going to have one driver as it stands.
He's got a 6-second advantage over Jeff Newton as well. So Kazuki Fujita having a quiet but steady race so far in 3rd. He's, to be honest, a fair distance behind Ladic. There's no getting away from that. But he's also built himself a fair gap between himself and 4th place. 1:31.65, one fastest lap for him so far. Started 3rd, finished 3rd, and the amount of 2 wheels I'm seeing going through that chicane, Luke. I mean, I know this is quick, but it just makes me nervous every time I see it.
Well, I'll tell you what, that is a send, and that was Masakazu Kuriyama making a move there on Matt Barrisville, and it looked like, there's a wheel that definitely shouldn't be going as quick as it's going, but it is ultimately. But yeah, that's because, again, we're viewing, so we're in the UK, John.
Yep.
The observers are viewing this from America.
Yep.
And the server's based in Asia Pacific.
And what time zone's the wheel in?
Yeah, exactly. So the wheel's in a certain time zone and the pedals are in another.
I mean,
like, that's why
that's a great on-the-go pit stop.
That's why we're seeing funky things, is because we've got 3 different points of view effectively. So anyone watching at home,
dear,
off we go. And that was that happened. Oh,
there's a lot of sympathy spinning going on here. What is happening? This is synchronized.
Yeah, it's almost like they're doing some sort of air show, but in the ground at this stage. And, well, it's entertainment to watch, I guess.
It also means that you're going to be spinning up, overheating the tires, and the rest of the lap ends up getting compromised as well. You're going to have to be driving the car differently, responding differently. The cars really don't like it when you do that to them. And I imagine both Kuriyama and Barrisville are going to be wrestling in those cockpits for the rest of this lap, if not until the end of the race.
Yeah, for sure. It's just like they're driving happy dogs. They've just had the,
Yes.
they've just had the ball thrown out.
Excitable puppy
really
mode,
excited.
engaged.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting to say the very least. But it is a battle for a top 10 as well, so it's not to be sniffed at for sure. It's Masi Kazu, though, who has the position.
Well, we've seen those mistakes creep in from both of these drivers, actually. So one more from Kuriyama here, and Barrisville will be able to go through. We did see that rather optimistic, but to be fair, pulled off send earlier on, and that's the mistake that we were looking for. Kuriyama has probably been on the edge for some time. We weren't sure if a mistake was going to creep in. There is our answer. Matt Barrisville now into the top 10 with 3 laps remaining.
Yeah, it's almost like, no, you have top 10. No, you have top 10. No, go on, mate, you do it. No, it's your turn this week. And, well, at this point, Matt Barrisville, for the time being, is currently in the top 10. How long that lasts for, it depends on him, really. He might decide to give it back to Masakazu. Who knows?
5-second gap now. One would hope he'd be able to keep a hold of it, but to be honest, with the way these cars drive, it is extremely difficult, more difficult than the likes of Josh Perwin would have you believe. They make it look easy, but you really are sort of a split second away from sliding out at any point. And these guys do an incredible job to consistently get the lap times that they do. Josh Perwin now 8.9 seconds ahead of this driver, Jaden Ladic, in second place, now 10.2, which is an incredible gap. But Ladic has had a great race. He's got a 5-second gap back to Fujita as well. Little bit of a slide coming out of turn 1, but nothing he can't easily compensate for. And with 2 laps remaining, he's going to be feeling pretty confident about qualifying here for the semi-final.
Yeah, 100%. Again, we're on board here with Josh Perwin. It'd be quite nice to look at a cockpit view from Josh to the end of the lap, just to see how he is managing with the tyres here. And probably, well, it's perfect view. Here we go. This is the kind of view you want to see. This is perfect field of view. We head up then towards the Schumacher S's, and how much has he left in, how in control he is. You can just see the minimal inputs into his steering. Of course, these cars, when they're going, 2 miles an hour, they do not turn at all. It's like an Austin Powers moment with the car, but once they're up to speed, they indeed turn with the minimal input here, and that also does help with your tyres. Tyres are the biggest factor in iRacing. Make sure you keep them in a decent temperature range. Make sure you try and keep as much indeed tyre wear as you possibly can until the end. And you see that he isn't really taking the risks with the curbs as a lot of other drivers have into that final chicane. I would imagine he would have done earlier on in this race, but it just looks so cool, calm, and composed. It just doesn't look like there's any real oversteer. He's not counter-steering for any potential mistakes here. This would be a telltale sign of what the tyres are like here, or how well he's managed the situation. Grabs a little bit of apex there. Is there a little bit of a slide? Not even a hint of a slide there. So again, just on the limit of the car, probably not. I feel like Josh has probably got a lot more in the tank here, if I'm completely honest about this situation. It just looks very nice and composed. It actually looks beautiful, and it's almost like a well-choreographed dance at this point.
And yet he's still 12 seconds up the road. I like the fact he's not taking liberties at the final chicane as well. At the end of the day, you've got 4 wheels. Why use 2 wheels when you've got all 4? I appreciate the line that Josh Perwin is using, and to be fair, he has been devilishly fast all race long, not putting a wheel wrong here, and he's coming through the back half of the lap now for the final time. This is lap 12 out of 12. He came 3rd last month, remember. He is already qualified, but he wanted to come back and say, you know what? I'm not satisfied with just getting on the podium. I want to win this damn thing as well, and he will successfully do that. What an incredible drive from Josh Perwin through the chicane for the final time.
That was the target for him there. He is that kind of driver. Winning isn't enough. He would have seen a back marker there, and that would have been a case of, I have to overtake that driver before the end of this race, as ridiculous as that may sound. Around the final corner we come, and Josh Perwin, we know how good this driver is. He's going to already qualify for the semi-finals before today, but he will pick up the checkered flag for the monthly final number 4 for the APAC region. In the open wheel challenge, it is an absolute impervious drive from Josh Perwin. And well, congratulations to him. It will be 2nd position for Jaden Ladic. A new driver then, Kazuki Fujita, will make it through to the semi-finals later on in this year. But Josh has done a stellar job, and again, looks like he is the driver to beat.
Minus a couple of points, though, for no donuts. We were hoping for some more in APAC. We got a couple in EMEA earlier. APAC, guys, come on, up the game. I want to see some donuts after winning the next race. Incredible drive from Josh Perwin. Absolutely no question about it. Ladic did a great job, but Fujita, really good to see a fresh face up there. A very different story being told here in Asia Pacific compared to EMEA. I wonder if the sports car discipline is going to be any different later on.
Yeah, historically, this season, the sports car's been the hotly contested championship in all regions, maybe apart from North America, where it really has been the stock car, as you would expect. You know, NASCAR, yeehaw, and all that good stuff. But yeah, in the sports car, we're going to have no problem with it being close and highly fought. I feel like, again, with the drivers that have already qualified for the APAC region, we're in a good spot here. We've got a very, very good standard in terms of a semi-final moving on towards our final. It's just, I think we just need a couple more people to really know about it. I know the region's full of talent, and it's just, getting the word out there. So they all need to be telling their friends, although the drivers aren't going to want to tell their friends, aren't they? They don't want anyone fast to come and join. But ultimately, just getting a few more of the quicker drivers from the region, getting involved, and just seeing some new drivers qualify each and every month.
We see drivers like Josh Perwin come back to try in that top 3 sort of several months in a row, really just wanting to stamp their authority and say, when we get to the semi-finals, guys, I'm still the guy to beat. Let's take a look at the final results here for the open wheel race sponsored by Splunk. Josh Perwin then almost 14 seconds ahead. Absolutely incredible stuff as he takes the checkered flag. Jaden Ladic and Kazuki Fujita will make up the podium. Fujita, a newcomer to the semi-finals, a warm welcome to him. Jeff Newton and Connor Healy will make up the top 5, and then we have Phil Blackburn, Jonathan Eaton, Ryan DeCartier, McCarthy, Adrian Windmill, and Matt Bereswell making up our top 10. And that's 20 points for Matt Bereswell as well, making into the top 10 there from that race. Really quite exciting, to be honest, the race he had. Remember, that battle must have been something like half the race long, where everyone was trading mistakes. It wasn't clear what position anyone was going to finish in. It's not just the sharp end of the grid where the excitement happens.
Yeah, it's almost like picking picking a ball out of the bag and going, "Oh, I'll have P10 today." That was kind of like how it was.
It
Who
felt a
wants
bit
it?
like that.
Anyone can have it. But yeah, I want to talk about Fujita. Like that is, you know, they're the latest driver to establish themselves within this championship. And again, I keep mentioning the word historically. I've been involved with this competition since right in its conception back in, I can't even remember what year it was. It's that long ago now. But ultimately, sometimes you get a driver that just about qualifies 1 month and we've never heard of them before, and then by the time it gets to the final, they are an absolute superstar and potentially could go and win the whole competition. So maybe we've unearthed another gem there. You know, when it's the case of someone just about qualifies, it might be because it's their first ever competition. It could be because they're really, really nervous about the situation. Is this the case with this driver here? Are we going to see them now with the pressure's off, if you like? They've already qualified. They've got step one on the ladder, potentially going to move forward and try and challenge the likes of Josh Perwin. Remains to be seen, really.
And then, well, I mean, just keep an eye out as we go into the semi-finals. Will Fujita be able to continue frankly his rampage through if he just about managed to make it in 1 month, and he's now in the semi-final because he managed to make it onto the podium? At what point are we going to start seeing him winning races? Frankly, though, the Josh Perwins of the world aren't going to allow him to do that very easily, and he did finish quite some way up the road, so massive amounts of improvement, but there's still some way to go, at least as things currently stand, until he matches this guy. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Josh Perwin, our race winner, to a quick on-air interview. Josh, first of all, congratulations on your win. I guess third place last month wasn't enough and you came back for more.
Yes. Decided I would hop in, and yeah, it was good fun. And
I couldn't agree more with you, Josh.
Yeah,
I really
exactly.
couldn't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm
very insightful answer.
Yeah, yes.
That's exactly what I would have said if I just won at an absolute canter. So yeah, this is incredible.
Yes.
We're getting
This is the sort you normally have to pay for this kind of insight as well. So I'm so glad that the audience are having this shared with them, because they're going to learn a lot from that answer.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to.
I'm pretty
the
sure Josh
finals
can hear us at this point, but unfortunately we can't hear him.
Oh dear.
Hopefully we'll be getting that voice back anytime now. It really was a little bit out of canter, but at the same time, even though the times look like it's out of canter, you can't actually take your foot off the gas out front. It's still the case that one mistake can end your race, even if you're 15 seconds up the road.
Yeah, of course. I've got no idea if I'm
Apparently everybody can hear Josh, apart from us.
All right.
All right, a massive thank you to Josh Perwin there. Sorry for the technical issues, but Josh, thank you very much for joining us, and congratulations, you winning after managing to qualify last time round as well. And I'm looking forward to watching your races. I was going to say in the semi-final, but let's be honest, you'll be back next month as well, won't you? That was Josh Perwin, ladies and gentlemen. An absolutely fantastic race from him, and no doubt we'll be seeing him in month number 5 as well. A huge thank you to Splunk, Logitech G, Quantum Pay, and McLaren, as always, for helping us put this broadcast on. The open wheel race has now concluded in the APAC region, and after this short break, we'll be coming back with the sports car discipline, where we're likely to see the largest field we've seen tonight. So grab yourself a drink, but make sure you come back soon, because this one's going to be fantastic.
has got the overlap. Yes, we have. Up the hill we come, through the right-hander. We'll grab a load of curb there, and oh, no love lost.
Since the last race, there's been a lot going on in my life. My family's actually building a new house, so we've been picking out different colours for the render, garage, the wall paint, and then in my own room, different wall paint because I want to be special with that. I recently built a new rig. I was a bit over the rolly chair and having to death grip the steering wheel just to keep myself in place. The rig is a 80/20 aluminium extrusion rig. It's much stiffer than just a wheel stand, and it's really nice when you press the brakes and you don't roll backwards. That's really great. It's just going to take more seat time and more practice, more hours, more everything just to get used to it, but really I'm very glad I built this rig. Round 3 at Brands Hatch, I finally got my second chance to drive there again after the disappointment at SRO, and I actually got a good result like I was hoping for.
Now green light racing, and Bokeda's got an absolute fly around the outside.
Going into the round, I had a bit of muscle pain, so that wasn't ideal. I mean, by the time I finished the race, I could barely lift my arm, so that wasn't what you want going into a big race like that. And then we get into the race, and Dylan moves a little bit over to the left on the race start, and Houlihan gets straight past me. I go, oh no. That's not how I want this race to start. We ended up fighting over it. I was catching Houlihan, and then we both had a few run-ins and we both made mistakes, but really that's just racing, isn't it? Ryan, or as we like to call him, Hooli, has been sort of there since I started sim racing. We both joined the same racing league at about the same time.
We got given the same car in the league, so the 720S, and yeah, we just started talking on Discord.
We didn't really chat too much at the start, but when we got a few rounds in, we started chatting.
Conversation continued there, and we eventually decided to be teammates for a couple of other events.
We've gotten closer and we're really good friends now, except it doesn't look like that when we're racing each other on the track.
It's really good to have Philip as a teammate because she's basically the benchmark for me. If I can get within 2/10 of her, I think I'm doing a pretty good job.
If Hooli had to describe me on track, I think maybe annoying would be the right word.
As a competitor, she's very, very fair. She understands on the track other people's behaviors and what they're going to do next. So she can plan ahead on the fly, basically, in the races, in the car, while she's driving. Set up the pit strategy, set up the pressures, get the fuel right. Just very well organized on the track. If I'm not racing and she's not doing anything, we'll just sit in Discord and chat, and she'll watch me play games.
Hooli really likes playing City Skylines, and we all just sit there watching him on a Discord stream because he's really, really good at it. So I'm always having fun when I'm racing with Houlihan. We know each other really well, and it's just fun.
We can race hard, and I know that she won't take me out, and hopefully vice versa.
I just find it really awesome that I can be such close friends with someone that lives so far away. So I live in Victoria, and Hooli lives all the way in Queensland.
It's great to have online communities where we can sort of meet each other, interact and form a friendship. Off the track, she's not just a teammate, but a friend.
Going into round 4, it's at Suzuka, and thankfully it's my favorite track in ACC. So I'm really, really looking forward to it, and I really hope to get a good result.
And that was Philippa Bokeda. So Bokeda has already qualified for the semi-finals, of course, so we're excited to see how she is improving month on month. Welcome back to the Logitech McLaren G Challenge. I'm your host, John Sargent, and alongside me is Luke Crane. We have 9 minutes left in the qualifying session for Suzuka, and someone has switched out the lights.
Here they have. It's nighttime here. The nighttime scenario, as we like to call it, of course, here.
Nighttime scenario
Suzuka.
mode.
It is nighttime scenario mode for sure. I cannot wait for in about 35 minutes for it to be nighttime scenario mode for me as well. So that's going to be fun. Yeah, we're here. Qualifier's begun. They're on their warm-up lap here. They will have the full 10 minutes. If they cross the line before 0 hits, they again get the opportunity to do another lap. So yeah, it's not like iRacing where they get like a set number of laps that they can put in. They can do as many laps within that 10 minutes as they possibly can. So the first lap here, the first sort of 2.5, 3 minutes is all about getting some heat into the tyres, making sure that your car is in the best shape it possibly can be. It is also the only championship that we allow setups, because there's no such thing as fixed setups within ACC. So yeah, this is a chance for them to really just tune in the car, make sure the car feels good. Potentially they can bring it into the pits now and go, that doesn't feel right. I'm now going to move on and grab some more or change the setup, for instance.
Hopefully they won't be doing that halfway through a qualifying session. That would be something. Either they found the secret sauce or something's going horribly wrong, but we'll wait and see. Philippa Bakita is, of course, in this lobby and competing. Of course she would. If she can win every single event heading up to the semi-finals, she will absolutely jump at the chance as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing how she responds here. And like you said earlier, there's potentially an even faster lap time to be found in Suzuka, precisely because it's nighttime. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. In the meantime, let's go ahead and take a look at a nice little overview that we put together earlier of Suzuka Night and what you can expect. The first racing track to ever be built in Japan, Suzuka is one of the most recognizable racing circuits in the world, known for its figure-of-8 layout, but also as one of the world's favorite drivers' circuits. Let's get stuck in. The high-speed S's are a flowing sequence of interlinking turns that see the car change direction rapidly at high speed. You'll need to master changes of direction and perfect your racing line to carry maximum speed through the complex. The Degner curve is made up of two tough and quick right-handers. Drivers have to adopt a line that changes mid-corner, which can unsettle the car and force them wide into the gravel. Stability here is key. Spoon curve is all about keeping the rhythm going. If you're too aggressive on the throttle, you will lose time through turn 14 and carry this deficit all the way through 130R. Be too slow on the throttle and you'll lose valuable tenths on entry and into the apex. The awesome 130R corner is actually a straight in engine terms, with the driver at full throttle throughout. This corner has been the site of famous high-speed overtakes at the highest levels of racing. What are you waiting for? Visit LogitechGChallenge.com to enter and see you on track. Five minutes left in qualifying here. And what I wanted to ask you before, Luke, is that I guess traditionally, especially for those of us who are used to watching Formula One and the like, we normally associate a warmer track temperature with faster times, more grip associated with the circuit. So it's interesting to see that in Suzuka Night, where the track temperature is lower, we might actually see faster lap times. Why is that?
Well, the engines of the cars just a bit more efficient with the colder air, so they're not working, they don't have to work as hard to get the same performance, so it's just minimal, really. And the tyres, so I guess the best way to explain it is, imagine putting some bubble gum onto a frying pan that's just a normal frying pan, no heat into it yet whatsoever.
You have weird dietary habits.
But if you scraped it across a frying pan, it being non-stick, it would just glide across a frying pan. But if you put heat into that frying pan, and then the bubble gum will then start to stick across the whole surface, and that means that your tyre wear, it becomes a bigger factor with the hotter track temperature, and that's thus meaning that you're not able to get the performance out of the tyres throughout a whole lap. So that's kind of my explanation how it works. And again, a lot of people are going to be like, what? That's how my brain works, I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen. It's not blame my parents. Write them an email right now and go, yeah, your son is weird. But ultimately, that's how it works in my brain, and it works for me.
A cooking stream with Luke Crane this Sunday. I'm looking forward to watching that one. The bubblegum experiment number 3. That's going to be delightful. Does that mean then, as a follow-up question, does that mean then that maybe the tyres are actually grippier, but when the track temperature is warm, but only for maybe a lap or so, and then they just degrade far more quickly, unlike here?
Yeah, in colder weather, just the tyres, I don't know. We do a lot of endurance racing with me and my team, and during the night we're more likely to be able to double stint than we are during the day, for instance.
So it's a lot more consistent.
But then it could be quicker in sort of the middle ground. So when it goes to sort of dusk, an hour after dusk, so the track temperature's just slowly cooling down because the sun's not baking the circuit, and that potentially is the quickest point because it's still pretty warm. But again, you're not racing like on an icy cold circuit as well. So yeah, it works out both ways. And I'm not overly sure what exactly the time in game is right now for the race. It doesn't say it on our overlay here. But I would imagine by looking at it here, it's sort of around about 10 p.m. I don't think it would be any later than that. But so I would imagine that the track temperature isn't freezing cold, if you like.
Luke, you're actually reading the constellations there to work out exactly what time it was. That was some serious 300 IQ stargazing. 10
Imagine I was right.
Well, we're sticking with it. Absolutely.
Imagine if it was 10 p.m. That would be a pretty good guess.
It's actually 10:03. You were out by 180 seconds.
So how are you? Are you joking? Or are you getting this information from somewhere?
Oh no, I'm absolutely joking. No.
Oh,
It's 10:03:30, of course. Philippa Paquita now 158.374, 2/10 ahead of her nearest rival here. But there are 3 or 4 cars within a couple of tenths of her, so it looks like hopefully we'll be in with quite a fun race out front.
Yeah, Paquita, we know one of the fastest drivers from the region. But also coupled up with the fact that she's just said it's her favourite track as well. Like everybody else who's in here right now, if they just watch that VT, they're like, that sucks. Okay, cool. We'll try again next month then, shall we? Because she's been that dominant. But yeah, ultimately, as it stands, the fastest driver out there, 4/10 of a second off of our EMEA time. Yeah, very, very quick indeed.
There are 3 drivers that are within 158 at the moment, and to be fair, P3 is 158.6, so it looks like the top 3 drivers are gapping everyone else, but there is still a minute and a half to go. There are opportunities for the other drivers to try and make a couple of tenths up and really bunch this up a little bit. Connor Davis in P4 at the moment, a 159.019, so just shy of dipping into the 58, but a full 4/10 slower than the top 3. So are we potentially going to see Ferris Stanley and co zipping off into the distance? That's Ryan Houlihan, Philippa Paquita, and Ferris Stanley splitting the friends at the moment and teammates. That's going to make for a very interesting first corner.
Yeah, well, they're going to probably Liam Neeson him and find him and use their particular set of skills to get rid of him. But yeah, he is right now in between them. So that's going to be a very interesting dynamic here. We just had confirmation, John, and I'm going to let you tell the audience here what time the in-game time is.
Oh yeah, the track time was indeed 10 p.m. So you more or less called it exactly at 10:03:43. Pretty sure you got that. Like the way you read the stars there, Luke, it was absolutely masterful. It's like you'd be doing this all your life.
It is true. It's like I've commentated Suzuka at night every single season, 5 times a year.
Boy Scout badges, or got them all.
Oh God! Do you know what? This is the worst. Whoever decided to make this at night, and that would be me again, was just like, it's the last race. It's like nearly 4 a.m. Let's say 4 p.m. So it's 4 a.m. for us, John. We're just like witnessing the beautiful night sky. Like this could be setting us up. All we need now is someone to deliver a hot chocolate, and we're golden, right? Like
I was thinking more like bottle of bubbly, couple of candles, some nice music.
Okay.
No? All right. My mind went to a slightly different place. Anyway, it's beautiful.
Invite me out on a date, John. Just invite me.
Yeah.
It's fine. But hopefully the drivers are going to keep our attention here. As the times are stating, it is super, super close, especially the top 3. And like you said, having the friends at the front here split by another driver, a new driver, shall I say, Indonesian driver Ferris Stanley. I just think this has all of the potential to be an absolute classic and something we may look back on as some of the big highlights from this season.
Yeah, this is going to be very exciting indeed. It'll be curious to see what happens with Ferris Stanley. We're effectively setting the cat amongst the pigeons here. And the drivers now are coming across their line. Of course, some of them would have started a lap. Let's see how many drivers are underneath the 2-minute mark. It's the top 9 at the moment, separated by give or take 1.4 seconds, 158.3 through to 159.7. That's almost the entirety of the top 10 below 2 minutes. It looks like we're going to have a fairly competitive race, and really though, the gap between the top 3 and everybody else is the one I'm looking at. Philippa Paquita, Ferris Stanley, and Ryan Houlihan comfortably ahead of the chasing pack which is headed up by Connor Davis. Ryan Houlihan has said, I'm not having someone split us, and he has, with his last gasp attempt, moved up into P2. What can Stanley do to respond?
Ferris Stanley is going to respond here with a time that is going to re-split them, I think. Across the line, they will indeed go. Actually, no, not the case. Not able to improve, unfortunately. It will be P3, but considering those two are the standout drivers from the region thus far, fair play to Ferris Stanley to arrive and make it up into that top 3 the first time of asking, and that's all he needs to do. And you were saying that there's a bit of a gap between 3rd and 4th and the rest of the field. If those 3 at the front fight really intensely, I don't think it's going to matter about the definition of pace. I think we could see a proper 10-car battle for the lead.
I think you're absolutely right, Luke, and I cannot wait for the race to start. So here are the track conditions for your race. 20-degree ambient temperature, conveniently 20-degree track temperature as well. A little bit cooler because we are here at night, of course. It's now something like 10-11 p.m. So we'll be keeping an eye on the time throughout the course of the race. No,
I'll let you know. I'll let you know. I'll just look at the stars, John. You
Exactly.
deal with the conditions. I'll deal with the times, okay?
Got it. No problem.
Don't
It's
take my
cloudy, but not cloudy enough that Luke can't read the stars, which is the important thing. Here is your grid. Wait, what? Did Ferris Stanley take pole position with that last lap? Is that what happened there? Because I missed it if that's what happened, but right now, Ferris Stanley on pole position alongside Philippa Bakita. What a response that would have been. Fantastic stuff. Ryan Houlihan then lines up in 3rd. At least the best mates are together. And Sai Prithvi will be in 4th. Connor Davis and Ilham Shak will make up row 3. Guy Barbara, Lewis Moreno, we've seen them before, 7th and 8th respectively. And Masvilton Jin and Joseph Morgan will make up your top 10.
I'll tell you, one person who's not been invited to the City Skyline party next time, that's Ferris Stanley. Jeff Newton and Reagan Herbert will take up the 6th row. We've then got Katsuhiro Nishino and Mitchell Noble in 13th and 14th. Alex Millwood and Luke Fitchett are in 15th and 16th. P. Cheng Sai and indeed Alex Tanaka are in 17th and 18th. And Sam Budgeon in 19th position. But I don't think we saw a lap time from them.
So those are your 19 cars getting ready to line up on the grid. And wow, what we were talking about, Ferris Stanley splitting the teammates here, Luke. I think the only possible spicier outcome has just been reached.
Yeah, he is the most hated man in the Asia Pacific region right now.
And we love it.
He is ahead of the friendship group. And well, how long can he stay ahead though? That's the question. Again, it's one thing being quick across one lap. It's quite another providing it lap after lap and keeping hold of those positions. And actually, he was half a second faster than Philippa Bokida and Ryan Houlihan in the qualifying phase for this competition. So has got the performance. Again, was only slower than Dylan Tan. Dylan Tan, who I don't believe is racing, actually. Already qualified, doesn't need to be involved too much. But yeah, Ferris Stanley, the new kid on the block, ultimately providing the shocks here and providing the performance.
Very impressive final lap there. I just got confirmation that 0.171 seconds faster than Philippa Bakita on that final lap. It just took a little while to update. That's because he was going so fast. Incredible stuff. So nearly 2/10 ahead of Philippa Bakita, who blitzed the field in earlier races in this competition, as some of you may recall. That's going to be making a very, very exciting race indeed. And if it means that Bakita and Houlihan are fighting with him non-stop for the lead, like you say, Luke, I'd love to see sort of 5 or 6 cars bunch up and all really try to tackle those podium positions.
Yeah, if you're not taking the best line around this circuit, you lose so much time. You lose so much performance. So that is a genuine potential factor. It is going to happen, I would imagine. This is going to be fascinating here, John, and this is what happens when you get certain drivers that, maybe you've got a bigger name in the industry or a bigger name within the regions, and, they're racing in leagues and they're racing in championships that are on Twitch and on YouTube. Ultimately, there are going to be a few out there that think, yeah, I fancy a bit of that. And, we keep saying, oh, do you maybe you think you're as quick as these drivers?
Absolutely.
And ultimately, we've had someone answer the call. We've got our bat sign out in the sky, and Ferris Stanley's like, yeah, absolutely, I'm faster than these drivers. Well, there it is. Ferris Stanley is our pole sitter today, with Houlihan and Bokida just in behind. And well, can Stanley do the job here and potentially provide upset of the competition? I think it would be. Again, it's a name we've not seen before. First time of asking, beating the favourites to win the region. absolutely would be a shock for me. Through that final chicane we will come then. And again, just confirmation of Ferris Stanley is on pole with Philippa Bakida in second. We've then got Ryan Houlihan and Sai Prithvi in third and fourth. We're about to go green light racing here. We've indeed got 20 minutes of racing action here at Suzuka under the night sky. Again, I will give you a time check during the race for sure. I'm sure that's everyone's favourite moment now. Across the line we're about to go then, as we will go green light racing. We're going to see the lights go green on our screens right in front of our eyes. It is the final race then of the Asia Pacific region McLaren Logitech G Challenge.
Green light, go,
Number 4, and we are green light racing. Here we go then. So Stanley gets a very good start here, and actually it's Bakina that maybe caught on her heels at this stage. Is Houlihan maybe going to find a gap on the inside? No, he will not. Stanley runs a little bit wide there. Potential door opening there for Bakina. Again, nothing doing there. A couple of drivers running out wide. Ooh, bit of contact then on the exit of the double apex turn 1 and 2. And ultimately, Stanley has done the job here. Nowhere to really make an overtake. If you do make an overtake here, especially on lap number 1, you're going to put yourself under a lot of pressure from the drivers in behind. What Bakina has Houlihan's kind of a little bit of an insurance plan there. If Bakina doesn't get the job done, she kind of can guarantee that Houlihan isn't going to dive one up the inside, because again, they are friends. Stanley then up towards the Degner curves and just about holds on here. Runs wide though through the first part. But again, nowhere to really make an overtake. And it's the final sector here. If Bakina can stick around, the opportunity through 130 out into that final chicane, potentially into turn 1 of the next lap, well, we could see that move being made.
I mean, Bakita is sticking to the back of Stanley here like bubble gum on a hot frying pan in the Crane household. So I'm looking forward to seeing whether she can make it up alongside here in Sector 3. She was basically glued to his tailpipe through Sectors 1 and 2, and she looks supremely comfortable driving that car immediately behind him right now. This is going to be a delightful battle.
Yeah, there's for sure going to be some sort of nerves, though, for Ferris Stanley. So the first couple of laps here are going to be absolutely vital. If he makes no mistakes in the first couple of laps, I think we could potentially see a new race winner on our hands. But it's all about trying to ward off the pressure from behind you. You see that gap between third and fourth now really starting to open up. Through 130R we come, and yeah, runs a little bit wide, but then so does everybody else up towards that final chicane. Maybe turning in a little bit earlier than the other two cars in behind as well. And Bakina is on the power very early indeed. And you will see this gap close up down towards the line for the for the second time in this race. It is the second flying lap of the race with 17 minutes, 50 seconds left on the clock. Bakina, though, has not got close enough here. And Ferris Stanley has warded off that pressure and now starting to potentially build on the hard work of lap number 1. And now with this sector number 1, when there's not really any opportunity to make an overtake, can settle into that rhythm and potentially push forward here. This race is going to be stages for Stanley. Bakina has got one stage, and that is overtake the car in front, whether it takes 1 or 20 minutes.
3/10 of a second separating first and second at the moment, and Ida not even peeking or anything like that, just wanting to stay properly in the rear view mirror here. She's doing a good job at the moment, applying that pressure, like you said. New kid on the block, let's put him under some pressure and see exactly whether he'll crack or not. That's what Philippa Bakita is doing in the first couple of laps. So far, I have to say, Ferris Stanley withholding any mistakes and stoking up that pressure very, very well.
Yeah, absolutely. Houlihan closing up to the back there of Bakita. And yeah, Ferris Stanley, although he's under some severe pressure here from Bakita, is doing a sensational job of just holding that P1. And again, there are certain places around the circuit where the overtaking is a little bit easier. It's a very difficult game to make overtakes on, but again, sector number 3 down towards turn number 1 is really the key parts of this race circuit. This is the moments now where Stanley just needs to get a really good exit. And it's a good exit onto the old start finish straight down in towards 130. That's the biggest gap he's had all lap. And again, if he can keep getting the exit out spoon curve like this every single lap, it's going to be very, very hard for anybody to try and make any kind of overtake. Down in towards then the final chicane. And again, not close enough to utilise the slipstream. Turns in early, goes a bit defensive. Runs a little bit wide though, actually. And Bakita here, maybe with that opportunity. So all the hard work done here from Ferris Stanley, but Bakita is right underneath that rear wing. Here's the opportunity. We start lap number 3 here. And Bakita then just No opportunity other than this is going to happen, I don't think. It's got to be taken as soon as possible. Ferris Stanley, though, moves over to go defensive. Bokita around the outside there. There is contact between the two drivers. I think Ferris Stanley, though, was as close to the apex as they possibly could have gone, but ultimately holds on to the position. First potential move being made there by Bokita. It's 1-0 Ferris Stanley. Oh, it's a big tank snapper there for Bokita and Houlihan. They're not able to take advantage. And Ferris Stanley, again, really, he's putting the pressure on for being in front, not making any mistakes, positioning the car in the right position. And this is absolutely fascinating.
That minor mistake from Stanley there, potentially letting Bokita have a look in. Bokita, though, responding after that incident with a little bit of a mistake of her own. So the pressure definitely going both ways here. And Ferris Stanley is able to soak up some of that pressure and dish a little bit out as well. I love this. The fastest lap too. We've got Philippa Bokita is about a 1/10.5 faster than Stanley. So to me, that ensures that taking a look at the second half of this race as well, they're going to stay bunched up. And this is a fantastic fight to follow, and it's not going away anytime soon.
Yeah, for sure. And the fact that there's nothing on the line here, I'm sure Houlihan isn't going to do Bokita any favours. Like, they're going to battle really hard here, which could give Ferris Stanley the opportunity to drive away. And let's not forget here, we've got Sai Prithvi and Connor Davis, and then Ilham Shak in behind as well. And they are catching up here, if anything. So these three, if they keep indeed getting involved with each other, we could potentially see this turn into a 5-car race. Ultimately, the first couple of laps, the drivers behind were under a little bit of pressure. You could tell by that by how much time they've lost to the lead group. But now they're going to be in a rhythm. So if they catch up once again, this time they're going to be in a rhythm. They're going to be feeling good about the race, and they're going to be even harder to drop.
We'll see if that gap manages to close up over time. Like Luke said, it increased just a little bit over the first couple of laps. It's about a 1.6 second gap now, I think, between Ryan Houlihan and Sai Prithvi. Indeed, 1.7, give or take. So it'll be interesting to see whether the top three continue to battle. Personally, I would love to see them keep battling. I want Bokita to close up on Stanley again, see a little bit of defensive driving. We get to see a masterclass in racecraft as these titans battle it out to try and see if anybody is going to crack. So far, though, we have to be about the newcomer, right? Stanley has not only soaked up the pressure, but has given a little bit back as well. Hasn't made any mistakes. There's still 13 minutes left in the race, and there's plenty of time for all of these drivers to make greater mistakes than they have already. But right now, it's we're just enjoying it blow for blow. It's a nice heavyweight match with Ferris Stanley, someone we haven't seen that much of before. This is excellent stuff.
Yeah, seen nothing of before, if I'm going to be completely frank with you. Like, Bokita is now a bit of a household name, as well as Houlihan within the Logitech McLaren G Challenge. Ferris Stanley's going to know who he's racing against. I'm not too sure whether the two behind are going to know too much about Ferris Stanley. I'm sure they would have crossed paths before, but the reputation of Bokita and Houlihan certainly isn't cared for by Stanley. Again, it wasn't like overly aggressive, and it wasn't dirty by any stretch of the imagination, but it was very aggressive defense, and indeed it turned into an attack, and ultimately holding on to that lead of the race. And that's the most important factor here, isn't it? Keeping hold of that lead position. It doesn't matter if they drop down into P3, they're still going to qualify, but what a statement it would be moving forward in this championship to just come in month number 4, win the race, then maybe not turn up again until the semi-finals, and just be that I don't know, allure of mystery. But, you know, everyone will be trying to work out, well, where's this driver come from? What's going on here? Is there anything we can work on here? They'll have one VOD to look at, and it's this race. So that could be a very interesting factor moving forward, because, again, Bokita and Houlihan have just been so dominant in this region, along with Dylan Tan. So, yeah, it's nice to see a new name up there. It looks like they're catching up to some back markers, actually, which is interesting considering that we are quite early in this race, so it looks like we might have had some incidents somewhere along the line. Connor Davis, though, is moved up ahead of Prithvi. So, okay, bit of work there from the observers to catch that, because I wouldn't have noticed that. So fair play to Connor Davis now. Could he potentially close up to the front three? Already gained 0.7 of a second then on Prithvi, and off to try and chase down the front three. And if they do start battling the front three, he will catch up, but he is looking very quick right now indeed.
Connor Davis wants Philippa Bokita to catch up to Ferris Stanley and frankly start tussling. start forcing him onto different lines, start making sure that he has to close the door and just slowing those front 3 cars down. That's his way to turn this into a 4-car race. And you can see them just up the top of your screen there as they come through. Philippa Bakita now right back up in a position where she might be able to challenge going into the last couple of quarters of this lap.
Going for it for sure here. And, well, not forced to back out of it yet as they come through Spoon Curve. Bakita is going to get that position absolutely nailed here. And, well, fair play to Stanley. Didn't really squeeze where he could have done. Houlihan now is going to also try and come through. And that overtake is going to cost Stanley here 2 positions. And as they come through 130R, and, well, fair play to Stanley there, leaning on every ounce of experience. Definitely being in this position for sure before. And ultimately then Houlihan is up into 2nd spot. So in one fell swoop, the lead has changed hands here. Bakita is in 1st now, Houlihan is 2nd. And as it stands then, Ferris Stanley is in 3rd spot. But ultimately, one more mistake away from Connor Davis coming through and getting that final qualifying spot. So the back markers here, you just got to be careful really with the back markers. The last thing you want is for them to, you know, potentially cause any slow moving. Like the last place you want to catch them is sector number 1, so they're far enough behind now to not have to worry about that too much, but ultimately if they are going to catch the back mark traffic, you just don't want to be in that position. But Ferris Stanley, since he's got behind these two, already losing quite a significant amount of time, which is going to be good news for Davis here. So wondering if maybe he's starting to struggle here.
You know what this might be, though? We mentioned it earlier on in some of our other races as well. Ferris Stanley might just have pulled off the 200 IQ non-overtake of the race. Ferris Stanley might have been sat there thinking, I'm fast enough to compete with these guys. They might be marginally faster than me in the race, but I also know that the top 3 positions go through. If I make a mistake and one of them gets through, letting them both through and just focusing on maintaining 3rd and gapping to 4th place might be the best, most chilled out thing that he can do in this race.
Yeah, for sure. That's that could definitely. It looked intentional, so I think you're probably right on that one. But ultimately, you start to take the foot off the gas. That's where mistakes can creep in. These drivers tend to need to be at 100% constantly for them to perform. As soon as, like, you'll see when a car is slightly damaged in, like, an endurance race, for instance, and they manage to get the car fixed 100%, psychologically, because they're not battling for, like, the lead anymore, or they're not really on that pace level as they were, that's where you see more mistakes creep into endurance teams.
Sure.
So, yeah, you see he's dropping off really quite significantly now to Houlihan and Bakita, with Connor Davis now only 1.7 seconds behind, and all of a sudden here, that 3rd position is really up for grabs.
It's Connor Davis is going to be looking at that, thinking, hang on a second, I might have an opportunity here. Whereas Ferris Stanley is going to be saying, right, it's consolidation time. But you're right, he's actually dropped off the back of Bakita and Houlihan a surprising amount. I would have thought he'd be able to hang with them for a bit longer than this. Bakita's sort of been unleashed here, and she's now starting to lap significantly faster than the rest of the field. To be fair, pulling Houlihan right along with her.
Yeah, those two, again, working together as a team, which, yeah, when you're friends with someone, it kind of helps. But I can assure you, later on in this competition, when the prizes start to get involved, or they won't be racing like their friends then, that's for sure. Yeah, that's when that's when your friendship really is tested. They certainly won't be giving up positions to each other. That's a fact. Ferris Stanley, though, as we see a Ferris wheel in the background, it is between him and Connor Davis. Connor Davis is definitely closing that gap here and actually dragging Prithvi along. So if Davis starts battling with Stanley, naturally then that's going to give the opportunity then for Prithvi to catch up. We've got Shaq and Moreno who are also battling for position in the background as well. So as much as there's only 7 minutes to go, and we saw in the EMEA region it wasn't the most exciting of races, this is starting to warm up nicely. It's starting to bubble up like a bit of bubble gum on a frying pan now, isn't it?
It is indeed. It's we're going to get some pretty decent action in the closing stages of this race. Remember, even though behind the first two, we've got Ferris Stanley getting caught by Connor Davis. Now that gap is under a second. Can't afford any mistakes as we go past the back markers there on the old start-finish straight. I have to say that's a fairly clean place to pass. I don't think anyone would have been held up by that. 6 minutes left to go. It's not a huge number of laps, but when you're already within a second of the car in front, 6 minutes.
Oh, it's off.
That's a huge off. Who was that? Oh no, that's Stanley. Never mind. So much for picking up that fight.
Yeah, Ferris Stanley there has just grabbed far too much curb there on the exit of 130R. And, well, we were going to say, is it one and done, and we're not going to see them back for next month's finals. If they want to qualify for the semi-finals, we are going to have to see Stanley back. Connor Davis has been gifted a third position, and Sai Prithvi also now in close contention here. So the battle for third spot is well and truly on. That you've got to feel there for Ferris Stanley. Looked amazingly quick in qualifying. Something's gone wrong there. I'm wondering if there's an equipment failure or something, because his pace has dropped off significantly. Once he let the front two go by, his pace just dropped off significantly. So I think there was something wrong, and he was kind of like, I don't really want to affect their race, so I'm just going to let them go. But ultimately, when it came to the crunch, he made a big error into 130R, and that is race over.
I mean, the other elephant in the room is that collectively, Luke, I think it's fair to say our instant cast to curse has been on point this evening.
Yeah, we are very good at ruining people's championships at this stage. So, yeah, I'm surprised we've not been taken in commissions at this point from other drivers. Yeah, please mention this driver in a good light. That'll be £10 into the PayPal, please. Because, yeah, we have, as soon as we mention someone in a good light, they just end up into a barrier somewhere.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the Quantum Pay replay of exactly what went on there. 130R, of course, the site of many fantastic overtakes in racing history here at Suzuka, but also grab a little bit too much of the curb, and this can happen as well.
Yeah, again, it's not the craziest deviant line I've ever seen as well. It was a case of most drivers are going to... No, it didn't. It's a bit of a strange one, that. It's clear that the rears have started to spin, and they were going too fast for the car, and hence why you're still turning left to get back onto the circuit, and then the rear will just indeed let go. So all of the weight is in the rear of the car at that stage, and ultimately when the car wants to go left and the rear wheels, the car that power the car, are going a little bit too fast, ultimately they just make the rear of the car its own entity. The rear wants to become the front, again, like a dog chasing its tail. So that is what's happened there to Ferris Stanley, and I think he can take solace from the fact that he has performed exceptionally well up until that point, and it looked very likely that he was going to qualify for our semi-finals. So I'm sure we will see them back next time out. But two drivers who are not going to care one iota, it is Connor Davis and Sai Prithvi. These two then battling for that final qualifying position. How much time has Prithvi got in him, as we have got Shaq here battling with Luis Moreno. So Moreno just in behind. And again, if anyone, potentially if Prithvi and Davis start getting into it, these two could be in the position to take advantage.
They certainly could. Only 0.3 of a second separating Shaq and Moreno at 1 point. So a potential move is certainly on the cards. And this is basically, let's be honest, this is for the position that if someone in front screws up, we want to be the first to profit, right? This is essentially the insurance policy position that they are racing for here. That position, of course, third, the automatic qualification to the semi-final, is currently occupied by Connor Davis, but Shaq isn't going to be dealing with that anytime soon. Spins himself around, and Moreno actually does him a little bit of a favor by pointing the car back the right way, but goodness knows how much damage they've suffered.
Yeah, that was not ideal in the slightest. So you've got to be looking at the stage now of how many points you've got. And Luis Moreno, believe it or not, is actually the most points gathered driver who hasn't qualified. So Moreno's on 94 points so far. So yeah, the world may have come to an end a little bit there, but ultimately not the worst thing in the world.
Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the Quantum Pay replay of exactly what happened there. We will see Shaq calmly going around, and the car deciding, actually, I want to do this a little bit faster. And Moreno saying, no, don't worry, mate. I've got you. I've spot you here. No problem at all. Both cars, I think, will have suffered a little bit of damage there, but I feel like they should have a big enough gap, even if they have got damage, to still finish 5th and 6th.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just trying to find Shaq here on the list of drivers in terms, because I'm pretty sure he's been here before, but he is not in the top 15 drivers in terms of the point scoring position. So Shaq really does need a big performance here today. P6 will be good. I guess he's going to need a couple of top 10s, so he's going to need to come back next month as well. Moreno should be pretty good again. He looks almost guaranteed to go through. If Connor Davis was to fall out of the top 3 right now, he is currently 2nd. He's on 92 points overall, so he would more than likely qualify. Well, actually, he would definitely qualify as it stands. So Luis Lewis Moreno and Connor Davis are the only two real guaranteed drivers if they were not to get a top 3 that would make it through to our semi-finals as it stands.
1 minute left to go. And this is Luke Fitchett, by the way. Some data-driven insights powered by Splunk. We haven't actually mentioned Luke Fitchett very much in this broadcast. He started 16th, and he's currently in 9th. So nice and quiet away from the explosive action at the front of the grid. But Fitchett's had a tremendous race.
Yeah, same as Sam Budgeon, actually. He's P11. He didn't get a lap time in, so I think he started like 19th. I think there's 19 drivers in the race. Sam Budgeon's up into P11, so that's a very good from him. He's currently in 18th position in terms of the points scored. Oh, Ilham Shak, there we go, I found him. He's 16th overall. So, yeah, P6 right now will take him up into the top 15. So, yeah, not a bad week, but I think, you know, he's another driver that will have to, for sure, come back. We've got Jeff Newton, Guy Barbara, who are currently 3rd and 4th behind Connor Davis and Lewis Moreno. Looks like Davis is going to be out of the conversation anyway. So jobs are good in there. And I've just realised, I think that, yeah, drivers that have qualified get automatically taken out of our season points list anyway. So, yes, Connor Davis will be taken out of that. So Jeff Newton will be 2nd. Guy Barbara will be 3rd. It's going to be unfortunate for Ferris Stanley. Stanley is effectively going to need to get into that top 3 next time out. As apparently we finished the race here, so Bakita did win the race. So last time out, we said the race was over a lap early, and now we're a lap late. We've balanced it out, John. But I didn't think the timer had gone to 0 that quickly. But Bokita is going to take the checkered flag. Houlihan will finish in 2nd, and Connor Davis will qualify through as well. I don't know what's going on with the checkered flags today, but we are all over the place.
It was very close. I agreed with you. I thought Bakita had crossed the line before the timer hit 0, but apparently she had just left enough room so that she crossed the line, and that was the checkered flag. So well done to Philippa Bakita. That was a tremendous outing from her, and she did manage to overtake Ferris Stanley as well, by the way. But I have got confirmation that Ferris Stanley had shifting issues, so he did let them by.
Okay, so there we go. So for the people watching at home, Philippa Bakita crosses the line, and she is the winner of the monthly final number 4 for the APAC region on ACC. Right, there we go. Right, yeah. Sorry about that.
Otherwise, that would have been pent up inside Luke for another month, and I'm not sure his body would have taken it. But Bakita Houlihan 1-2. That result was far from certain at the beginning of that race, let's be honest. I mean, Stanley had an absolute stonker, and if it wasn't for, well, I guess at least partial equipment failure, that would have been a big, nasty fight. Well, I say nasty, maybe nasty, but a big fight for the lead. And it wouldn't have just been those 3 as well. They would have dragged other cars into it too.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gutted for them, actually. It's just, you know, you could do 100 races and that would maybe never happen. And ultimately, maybe one of the biggest races they've ever been in, it's come undone because of an equipment failure, which is really, really unfortunate. But ultimately, that's got to add fuel to the fire, right? You're going to be wanting to come back and make a difference. And I think it's a great... I'm excited. Next week, I cannot wait to see Ferris Stanley come back. I cannot wait to cheer them across the line as that top 3 and qualify for our semi-finals. Again, a superstar in the making for me, for sure, for this region. Came out of absolutely nowhere and blown us away. Just unfortunate how things turn out.
I'm looking forward to seeing them back for sure. Let's take a look at the final results powered by Splunk for our sports car discipline. Philippa Bakita then will take the checkered flag ahead of Ryan Houlihan. A delightful exactly 3 seconds behind. We then have Connor Davis taking that final podium position and direct qualification to the semi-finals. In 4th is Cy Prithvi, immediately ahead of Lewis Moreno, Ilham Shak and Guy Barbara. Joe Morgan, Luke Fitchett and Alex Millwood will round out our top 10.
So yeah, there's your top 10, ladies and gentlemen. Then we've got Sam Budgeon, who moved from 19th up to 11th spot. We've then got P. Cheng Sai in 12th position. We've got Reagan Herbert and Jeff Newton in 13th and 14th. Ferris Stanley there in 15th position with Masvilton Jin in 16th. We've got Mitchell Noble in 17th. Katsuhiro Nishino in 18th. And then Alex Tanaka rounds out your drivers there. Unfortunately, 10 laps down along with Nishino in 19th position.
So those are our final results. Absolutely incredible race. Really delightful, both in the midfield as well as at the front. We had vehicles in the midfield that were making 5+ places throughout that race. But at the front, for a lot of it, it was a 3-horse race. Stanley starting on pole, managing to fend off both Bakita and Houlihan. But ultimately, a shifting issue sadly cost him his position in the race. Moments like this, though, I mean, I can't wait for more of these.
Yeah, for sure there. Just a little bit of a nudge there, but it looked like more to do with Bokita turning in than Ferris Stanley changing his line here. But we watch as Prisby, this is where he lost the position actually to Davis. It runs a little bit wide. Again, could have been a lot worse, could have been exactly what we saw with Stanley, where he completely lost the car there. But here is the move for the lead, and Bokita gets the job done. And we found out that it was made a little bit easier than what it would have been because of the shifting issues that Stanley has. And you see there, he just moved over for Houlihan. Here's the mistake from Stanley then. Again, it would have been ideal for him to short shift up a gear there on the curb. And if you're on a too lower gear, that's why you indeed do lose the rears of the car. So that would explain that mistake there as well. But Bokita across the line, quite a distance ahead of friend and teammate Houlihan. But yeah, it's Bokita once again that takes the checkered flag.
Absolutely fantastic performance there. I look forward to having the renewed fight with Stanley, but to be perfectly honest, Houlihan is going to be a fantastic competitor in the final month as well. We now have Philippa Bakita on the line with us. Philippa, welcome. Congratulations. This is your second win, and you finished in the top 3 every round, and close to my heart as well. You're effectively local to me. If I tell you my grandparents lived in Casterton, and I've been around your neck of the woods many, many times, I'm sure you'll know exactly where I'm talking about.
Not really.
Oh, but it's just an 1.5-hour drive west of you. It's basically local.
Kind of.
Second win and top 3 in every single round. I mean, this consistency bodes very well for the semi-final.
Well, I hope so. I mean, I'm not really sure what to say. It's difficult, especially like each race we've had a few like really fast people pop through, like O'Hara in the first race, Tan, and even Ferris just then. Ferris is, I haven't seen him on ACC in like a year, so seeing him pop on, I was like, oh no, that'll be interesting.
Well, my grandparents are from London in the UK. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've heard of that.
There you go. More local then, John, than where your grandparents are from. First of all, congratulations on your performance today. And I'm going to ask a simple question, and Houlihan is not involved in this answer at all. Who is your biggest rival to take the crown from the region?
I'm still going to say O'Hara. I love Hooli, but O'Hara is still the big one.
Oh, this is going to be heating up very, very nicely indeed. Philippa, congratulations once again. Top 3 in every race, second victory. No doubt we'll be seeing you come back for a 3rd next time out as well. Of course, our 5th monthly round races. Thank you once again for joining us, and congratulations once again on a fantastic drive.
Thank you. Hopefully I don't get shifting problems next time.
Yeah, exactly. That was Philippa Bakita, ladies and gentlemen, a tremendous race winner and potential champion here. Very, very strong in the APAC region. An absolutely delightful race. Sees a second win and top 3 every single time. There's no other driver in the G Challenge, I think, Luke, that is that consistent.
Brandon Hawkins, that we'll see tomorrow, I would imagine.
Maybe. Yeah, that could be fun. We might get Brandon Hawkins doing something similar.
Yeah, I'm trying to think anyone else really out there. No, there isn't, to be completely honest. Matt Danson, I guess, as well, from this region in terms of the open stock car. But yeah, not someone who's just every single month getting a podium, not really. And it's the fashion in which it's being done as well. And it's also the competitors being done against it. You know, it's a very strong field. Each and every month we have these finals in the sports car specifically.
So those were our 3 races from the APAC region. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just seen the sports car standings and our interview with Philippa Bakita. But also, we go all the way back to the start of our evening now to remind you of what happened in the stock car. Matt Danson did indeed take that victory ahead of Travis McDaniel and Graham Bunyan. But what a victory it was, where he lapped everybody except Travis McDaniel. That was absolutely superb from Matt Danson. Taking a look now at open wheel and what happened there. Let's go ahead and check that out. Josh Perwin, again, So many of the usual suspects in the APAC region coming out. Will take the victory ahead of Jaden Ladic and Kazuki Fujita, who is a new addition to the semi-final. Congratulations to Kazuki Fujita. Behind them, we then had Jeff Newton, Connor Healy, Phil Blackburn, and Jonathan Eaton, with Ryan Ducati McCarthy making up the top 8. Adrian Windmill, Matt Bereswill, Debising, Kuriyama, Nickel Smith, and Rout made up the top 15 in the open wheel. Immediately behind them, then, we had Bruce Long, Circovit, unfortunately involved in that incident. Hopefully, we will see them a little bit later on in month number 5, and Jackson Starrett will bring up the rear, but gathering 12 crucial points to whether or not they'll be able to make it through to the semi-final. Incredibly fast driver. I have very little doubt that we'll see them there, and we look forward to having them back for month number 5. So, APAC, Luke, played out quite differently to EMEA, but still 3 exciting races tonight.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm just hoping that there are people out there watching, realizing that they've only got one more chance to do this. You've got to head to logitechgchallenge.com to sign up, get involved in that time trial, because once next month's over, that is it, done and dusted for another year in terms of qualifying for our semi-final. So yeah, my final thoughts are, get yourself involved. Maybe you don't even know how fast you are. Come and find out. Even if you are, 30th out of 30, even if you don't even qualify, take your first steps in towards esports. You won't regret it, I assure you that.
A massive thank you to Splunk, Logitech G, Quantum Pay, and McLaren for helping us put on this production. We've now seen EMEA as well as APAC, ladies and gentlemen, and you can join us back on this panel tomorrow as we move on to both North America and LATAM. There's still plenty of racing action and 6 races left to go here in the Logitech McLaren G Challenge race weekend. We look forward to welcoming you back then.